Fire away. These will be recorded so that you legends, of course, can reflect on them after and share along. As I said before, and I'll reiterate once again, these recordings are for anybody and everybody, whether you are an existing Excelsius member or you are somebody looking to join. And so, yeah, legends, let's jump straight into it. If you want to unmute your mic, you certainly can. If you want to type away the questions, you certainly can. Just simply put in the chat box who wants to go first, and we will fire away. If there are no questions, then all right, we'll go straight into it. Let's rock and roll, champ. You should be good to go. Theodore, champ, how we doing? How's everything?
Yo, what's up, Albert? I'm doing good. I
How's
think
are you in school right now?
yeah, I'm in college right now, first semester.
Let's go, baby. How is it?
I mean, it's good, just getting through the work, just the busy work. I don't
I
really
feel you.
it's not, trading's my main priority.
Is anyone moving the way that you're moving?
I mean, I just gotta say today I just finished two verifications for FTMO. I'm officially 300K funded today.
Woo! Theo, legend, tell them,
Yeah.
tell them. When did we begin?
Yeah.
Tell them the story real quick. You being the first one here. When did we begin? And what you tell them? How many years ago?
Man, we started when I'm a freshman in college now. I started in the summer of my eighth grade with you.
Legends.
I lied to you. I told you I was older than I was because I was scared you were gonna turn me away.
Yup, and rightfully I would have, knowing that you were 13, 14 years old at the time, right?
Yep.
Legends, I did this whole one-to-one session with Theo here, and we ripped through it. The legend was killing it, and then at the end, he goes, "I got something to tell you. I'm 13 years old." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, I don't even know what I was doing at 13. And what did I tell you that day when we finished? I said, "You'll see. In 4 years from now, you're gonna have options." And still, you should go the route, but knowing that you can move however you please when you get to that senior year. And was I not right?
Man, you weren't lying at all.
Damn, I told you, you stay on the path and you see what happens. I'm so proud of you, boss man. And now, I'm excited for you to get hooked up to Excelsius. I know that you have been salivating with questions. Let's go into it, champ.
Yeah.
Ask me, fire away. I am here to be at your, at your leisure. Let's go.
I mean, just a quick rundown would be nice. How you would use it for entries, exits, like how you scale like your R&Rs with it. Just like,
Absolutely. Let's jump straight into it. So to run into it, right? Excelsius is a trading algorithm that we designed to be the perfect plug and play when it comes down to the necessities and just overall desires of traders. Ultimately, when you look at us retail traders and when you first get into the game, or more importantly, just participating in the game, you do ultimately conclude that there is a massive disadvantage as being a retail trader, mainly for the fact that you're dealing with sharks out here who have access to a vast amount of resources that we unfortunately do not have. And so in and of itself, getting to that realization is a massive and huge initiative on why we went the route that we did. Apologies about that. That is my dog being a good guard dog. But going back into it, that is the basis on why we developed it, solely for the fact that retail traders in and of itself, and not just retail traders, but overall market participants, whether you're an investor or just an overall enthusiast, we're at disadvantages, right? You could be someone like, oh, hey, I like to participate in the crypto market, every now and then, and you are affected by the institutions. Take a look at a week and a half ago when crypto prices dropped like 25%, right? And so in and of itself, this is one of the fundamental reasons on why we brought Excelsius to the table, but more importantly, B, legends, it is time to upgrade. It is time to move with the times. Technology is consuming us more so than ever, and why not become one with it? That is how I view it, and I cannot stress enough, this in and of itself has genuinely taken my trading to a whole new level. As you legends know, I've been a pure price action trader now for as long as I could remember, and this algorithm is designed exactly in that way. And so, jumping into the whole basis, the use case, how to go about it, the full breakdown, let's jump into it, legends. So, starting off here, as I said before, Excelsius is a fully designed plug-and-play algorithm. It is designed to give you the unfair advantage that you seek. Now, what you have straight away is Excelsius has a full line of tools that gives you a genuine unfair advantage, from buy and sell signals to advanced volatility measures, market direction identifiers, dynamic support and resistance levels, and institutional movements, volume, and just a wild amount more. There is so much going on here, but at the same time, it is so simplified in such a neat and organized way. It really does come down to the overall use case and desire of the individual, which is precisely why it was designed in the way that it is. It allows for the advanced of the advanced traders to maximize it, and at the same time, it allows for that average, market enthusiast to also utilize it to its maximum. And so, when jumping into it, that is why you take a look at the configurations tab, and you can see ultimately why it was designed in the way that it was, because it was designed to give you that flexibility, to give you that customization that you would seek as a trader. Whether you're somebody who loves signals, who loves to know when buy and sell opportunities are available, or you might be an individual that just loves to trade market structure and wants to move with the structure. It's designed to do anything and everything. It's also designed to be a completely autopiloted system if that is something that you seek as well. It genuinely can move as you seek. And so what we will do, legends, is we will go through every single setting and we will rip up Excelsius from the inside and out. And so I can't stress enough that this was designed so much more than to just be a buy and sell, a type of algorithm. It genuinely does provide you with so much more than that, and it forces you to just become such a better trader because it's so in your face that you're just constantly thinking about the things that you need to be thinking about. And so, going into the configuration side, what you'll see here is that you got a full list of different selections that you can toggle on and off, from signals, rejection zones, market structure, institutional volume, your dashboard, the alerts, the entire 9 yards. Let's go through each one and what each one means. Starting off, legends, we're going to take a look here and we will just go through with the signals in here. And so let's take a look at just a reason why I put S&P is just because it's a really good example in pertaining to Excelsius and what Excelsius is. Excelsius is a hard built trend algorithm, okay? Excelsius does not break down when market makes short-term corrections. Just as you legends know the trading that I am, being a momentum trader, Excelsius is built in the exact same way. And so to start, the signals are there for you to utilize at your disposal. We've given a couple of customizations based on the trader's desires and needs, and this is how it works. To start, the time frames that you use will totally dictate how many trades that Excelsius fires away at. The higher the time frames, the more amount of signal, or the less amount of signals that are going to be sent, but those tend to be a little bit more of the longer term and expected type of signals, and vice versa. The shorter time frame that you go in, and the more frequent amount of trades that you could expect, but at the same time, you can expect more frequent but shorter term types of trades. Now, in addition to that, we didn't want to just give just those two options in context to the amount of trades that we want to give. And so in addition, we did provide the take profit percentage, because this in and of itself also dictates how many trades that Excelsius can fire away at. For example, you might be that individual that likes to trade on the higher time frames but still wants more frequent signals. You can do that. Or you want to trade on the higher time frame and have less frequent signals. You can do that, and vice versa. Shorter time frame, more frequent signals, boom. Shorter time frame, less frequent signals, boom. You completely control the output when it comes to Excelsius. You are completely in control for what you needed to do when you needed to do it. Taking a look at the signals, one to start off. As I said, the time frame that you will move to start will dictate how many signals are fired away in context to Excelsius. In addition, however, the take profit percentage is incredibly important, because notice this. If I happen to go, let's say, in a very high take profit, you will see less signals are populated on the chart. If I go a much lower take profit percentage, you will see more signals will be populated on the chart. And this also works in confluence with the time frames that you guys are moving in. Now, the reason why this was put in, and it is so incredibly important that you're mindful of it, is because every market is different to one another. every pair is different to one another. They all move in different rates of volatility. And so that is why you need to have the ability to customize the output of signals, and more importantly, the type of signals that are going to be provided, because every trader is going to be different. Take you, Theo, take all the other ledgers that I've worked with. You all work under the way that I move in context to the way we see structure, but yet you've all developed certain ways and niches that you guys move in that way, specifics and things like that, regardless if the foundation is still the same. This in of itself is the fundamental reason why we designed it in this way, because you could, for example, be trading the crypto market. That is a market that tends to be a more aggressive type of market. And so with Excelsius, you'll be setting take profit percentages that tend to be a little bit higher, because that is something that you can expect from the market. However, maybe you're moving into, let's say, a pair like AUDNZD that moves 20 pips in the entire week. You might want your take profit percentages a little bit shorter just because of that type of environment. And so when it comes down to the signals, you have complete flexibility in context to when and how many are fired away. Now, we're going to build on top of that context of the signals and how to play around with it, and how to really go into the whole autopilot feature, the sequence alerts, creating custom alerts and all of that. But going over the basis of it, it's incredibly important that we're mindful that you can completely dictate what happens in context of the environment. That is why I cannot stress enough, when you get set up with Excelsius, you need to test with it, because you need to figure out what variables are going to work for your trading style. Sure, you could just plug and play exactly how it is. That's fine. But you know what? If you want to maximize to your trading style, because this was built to be a major confluence to your trading, not to be the sole driver of your trading, then you're going to spend the time that's required to find those right settings. You might be someone that trades 2 pairs versus you might be someone that watches an entire FX space. It's important that you customize to your needs. Backtest with them. But in addition, you're going to be utilizing the other tools as well, which is precisely why we built them. And so on the signal side, before we go into the tools, questions pertaining to the signals, we're going to knock out one by one. Anybody have questions pertaining to the signal side from everything that I explained? Aside from the alerts, which I'm going to show you guys the sequence, game plans and all of that we're going to be going through. I'm just talking about the basis of what has been reviewed up until this moment. Any questions on that side? Or are we good to go? Thumbs up on there. If not, just let me know in the chat and we can unmute your mic, okay? So, after the signals, right, as I said before, completely customizable and more importantly, flexible to what you need it for. Let's say you're a legend that maybe you're someone that says, you know what? Screw your signals. I like to compete more so on how I want to move, how my criteria goes about. Rock and roll. I urge you to. I want you to use it to what you're comfortable with, and more importantly, what you want to use it with. That's the whole basis of it. That's why you can simply toggle them off. Let's take a look at the other tools that we have available to us. Starting off with the rejection zones. The rejection zones are an incredibly wild tool here, in the fact that they basically identify to you not only market direction, but more importantly, they identify you the highs and lows in direction, and more importantly, will work in any type of environment. Now, when you're using the rejection zones, you really want to look at them as just more so, and I'm going to zoom out here so you can just really see in a bigger picture, and then I'm going to touch base a little bit more. You're really looking at these as, you know, just environments where you can expect some really hard reversals. Now, how hard of the reversals you can expect is totally based on the structure, and more importantly, what's going on in that bigger picture. Notice when we push into these regions, what happens. Notice how we push off just due to the level of sensitivities as we do get involved in these regions, right? This is really the basis of it. Still though, you can see how price will push off just seldomly here, but still continue its rise. This goes back down into, once again, being mindful of what's going on within the market structure. But nonetheless, what's incredible about the rejection zones is not just the fact that it's giving you indications of sensitivity, of highs and lows, but, and this is everything else pertaining to Excelsius, it works completely dynamic all to the time frame that you're working within. So let's say, for example, at this current moment, you can see that Excelsius' rejection zones price is nearing just this upper, zone. More importantly, it's giving us indications that maybe we can expect some type of slowdown or deceleration. If we start to drop down into the smaller time frames, you will see that the zones will, more importantly, adjust to that given time frame. And now you notice that we just recently pushed off just more of a bullish type of environment, now that we're more approaching into this bearish type of area, and vice versa. This continues to adapt as we continue to drop in time frame. And so what's being important, and we're going to go over the game plans, don't worry, legends, is being mindful of what is going on in the given time pertaining to the chart that you are working with. And so what I mean by that is, you can see on the daily here, we're definitely pushing more into a sensitive region where just in general, maybe we can expect some type of consolidation, maybe some short-term pullbacks until we can successfully get above the highs here, right? But at the same time, when you start, and we're going to go into the game plans again, let's say you start dropping to the smaller time frames, you can kind of work with it in a little bit of a different manner. And you could be like, okay, I see price is pushing, let's say we're going to go here, into these previous sensitive regions. I can definitely expect some type of slowdown, not necessarily looking to take it verbatim, but maybe now I'm going to use that in addition to breaking down some type of market structure, and boom, I now have some type of entry points. I can start using these upper targets, these upper zones for really good indications of potential take profit points, and more importantly, slowdowns, decelerations within the market. But at the same time, you're being mindful, hey, when I'm pushing into here, I'm also sitting in line, right, with that daily rejection zone, which I know we're heavily consolidated with, and it makes sense why this is nowhere near that blue zone, mainly for the fact that if you've been following the equity market, we've just been moving up and up and up and up since COVID. Let's move into another chart here real quick in context to the rejection zones, just to show the dynamicness of it. We're going to be going through a lot of examples of the signals, but nonetheless, when speaking about the rejection zones, they're incredibly dynamic, and you really want to use them as areas where you can expect some really nice hard reversals, but at the same time in context to what is going on. Just because we push off of here doesn't grant and guarantee that you're now going to move into the next zone. You have to be mindful in the end of the day, legends, and I will be the first one to tell you, market structure runs all. It dictates all. It is the name of the game. And so that is why it's so important that you're mindful of what the direction is, what is going on, and you can use these zones, you can use these bands to tell you, right? You can see in the bigger picture here, the zones will represent that longer time frame direction, and more importantly, will dynamically move as you move. And so the rejection zones, once again, are really good areas, really good pieces of added confluence that you can use for your trading, whether you're looking for decelerations and exhaustions, tops and bottoms, and at the same time, targets in context to your trades. Now, going back into the configuration settings, legends, after the rejection zones, we have, which I'm not going to say is my favorite, hint, hint, but is my favorite, the market structure settings. The market structure settings are quite wild. I'm not going to lie, okay? Probably you can kind of hear how speechless I am. Like, don't get me wrong, the signals are on par, tested and backed by the highest quality tick data, all good, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't even excite me as much as the market structure aspect does, just because I think it's so amazing in just how it works, and more importantly, the overall dynamicness of it. Let's go into it, legends. The market structure setting here is precisely as you would think it is. It dynamically identifies not only the most key and sensitive points of the markets, but it's exactly identifying higher lows and lower highs in any time frame that you are moving into. Once again, just like the rejection zones, the higher the time frame, just like the rejection zones, no matter the time frame that you move in, it will adapt accordingly. It moves dynamically. And so when you look at this, for example, you can see that we're having multiple points of structure, which I'm going to review with you, legends, in just a second and what it all means. But if we go down to the weekly here, you will see the structure will start to change. The structure starts to become larger, as it should, because in the end of the day, that is ultimately what market structure is. It becomes larger in the bigger picture. It becomes more choppy, shorter term trends in the smaller picture. And so when you select the market structure setting, what it ultimately does is literally throw in your face what is going on within the market structure and where the most key and sensitive points are, depending on the time frame that you're in. If you'd like to say, well, I want to know what's going on here in the smaller time frames, and the reason why this is not identifying anything for the moment is because market is waiting to develop these next points, you're now dropping into, you can say what's going on here in the smaller time frames, and structure will adapt accordingly to those next points, giving you potential ways that you can go about looking for those next entries. And so This in and of itself is such an amazing, amazing feature solely for the fact that it's being completely mindful of what needs to happen for any type of shifts or continuations to take place. Now let's take it one step further. Not only does Excelsius have the ability to identify the most sensitive and key points within the market, but it can also completely transform its candles into the very structure in which it's attempting to create. Listen to what I just said one more time. Excelsius not only can identify the most key and sensitive points of the market, but it can very much transform into the structure that it's attempting to create. Let's take this exact example at this current moment and start with me from left to right here. Ready? Notice how we have a bearish descent, right? Market is turning bearish here. And notice how when price successfully broke this lower high, notice how the color successfully changed. The reason why the color changed is because we broke a previous point of structure, giving us indication that we may now potentially be shifting. And that color will remain the same until one of two things happens. Either you break a higher low or you break a lower low. Let's take a look at both examples. You can see here that nothing happened. Even though a lower low formed, since price didn't break this low, still stays valid, still attempting to potentially be bullish just because the most recent argument was we did break some past structure. But notice what happens. We develop some short-term correction. And legends, please admire the accuracy of the market structure. Even though the signals are beyond on par, the market structure is wild. And so, how many quarters do you have of the data for backtesting signals? 18 and a half plus years, tested since 2003. Going back into it, what we can see here is the moment that price successfully broke through the last higher low here, notice how now the structure, and more importantly the candle, starts to change back into the overall structure. And now notice how this continues to stay the same and will remain the same until one of the two happens. A new point of structure breaks or a new point of structure develops, which then ultimately allows for some short-term pressure to take place. If we broke this, this would start to turn blue, or let's say we develop some, and if we broke this, this remains pink. But nonetheless, let's say now this starts to develop in this way, and let's say now price successfully broke through, this short-term leg would start to develop bullish in and of itself, but inside this bearish picture. Now let me show you how wild this market structure setting is. Not only does it dynamically act based on how market is moving, but on top of that, it moves dynamically on the time frame. So what you can see here is you had a bearish trend here, you had a short-term attempted bullish trend, and then we continued into the bearish trend when we successfully broke the lows. Watch when I move into the higher time frames, this will no longer be bullish, but it will all simply be a part of what was developing in the daily. And if you go to the daily time frame here now, you can see, okay, in this example, oh no, I was 100% right, apologies. You can see all of it in and of itself is still very, very much bearish. There is no developed bullish pressure in any way. And if we continue to go into a higher time frame, you will see it very much stays in the same way. In this example here, what we can see is as follows. Price just recently broke through the last higher low, turning bearish, but before then, we can see that market in and of itself was bullish solely for the fact of breaking previous highs of this past structure. And so what's really cool though is that it ultimately moves dynamically based on the time frame that you're going to be going through. For me, I can't stress enough how sick this is, and I'm trying to pull any other market available. I can pull anything, right? It just in context with the dynamicness and overall just ability of how it moves based on what was the most recent thing that broke in context to market structure. And so it completely moves all based on, what is happening at that given time. And so, as I said before, not only does Excelsius have the ability to identify the most key and sensitive points of the structure, but it can completely turn into the structure itself, all based on the most recent movements that had taken place within price. Any questions pertaining to rejection zones or market structure candles at this time? We'll go into it all at the end. Keep going, legends. On top of the market structure candles, which in my opinion is just the most sick thing that you legends will ever see, I just can't get over it, and we'll review it. And that's also a neat thing, by the way. If you were worried about the loading time of Excelsius, once it's loaded on a chart, notice how it just stays. And if you drop now, right, once, for example, it's loaded on the time frames as well. So once we load it on the 4, load it on the 2, load it on the 1, right? And this works just for all your charts as well. Now you're good to go. Now you go to the 2, boom, it's there. You go to the 4, boom, it's there. You go to the daily, it's there. So you can move free as the. Go to the weekly. And this is a really good example in context of the market structure, just that last point there. Notice here, you can see that this entire leg is bearish here, but if we drop to the daily here, we can definitely see, actually, I'll give you guys a side-by-side view of, what pair is that? AUD CAD. So, take a look at this and take a look at this. Oh, can I not add? Oh, I can. That would have been off. Look at that. I've never even done this before. I'm doing something new right on the live. Nice. Alright. Really good example. So take a look at this. You can kind of see here in the bigger picture, market remains bearish on the weekly, while on the daily, market was attempting to turn in the short term. And that's the super unique thing that I'm trying to get at when it comes down to the dynamicness pertaining to Excelsius. It all moves in context to the time frame in which structure is working off of. And so it is completely dynamic and adaptable, all based on the environment that you're working within. Now, after the market structure candles legends, we do have some more ridiculous settings on here. The institutional volume, in addition, is something incredible to utilize. Institutional volume ultimately shows you where the majority of the volume is sitting, and more importantly, you can utilize it as, just areas where you can expect deceleration, exhaustion, target areas, just as if you would use the rejection zones or the market structure candles as well. Now, when it comes down to utilizing this volume profile and how it works, simply take a look at the areas that have the highest amounts of volume. That is ultimately where you can expect the majority of orders to be sitting, and more importantly, where you can expect market to start slowing down. You take a look here on the daily, we can see a lot of orders are sitting in here, and we can start to expect now price to start slowing down in the shorter stance. At the same time, let's say price does really start to pull back, and another region that we could really start to expect price to start pulling into is this 94 to 96 handle, mainly for the fact that we know that there's a lot of orders sitting within this region. And once again, this completely works dynamically based on the time frame in which you are on. We happen to just be on the weekly here. If we drop to the daily, it's going to move on the daily's chart, and vice versa. So now you take a look at the daily, it might be at a completely different area in context to where we can expect a lot more of those orders sitting versus, let's say, the weekly and the monthly. Once again, completely dynamic, all based on the trader you are, the market participant that you are, and how you are trying to move and what your overall goals are for Excelsius. Institutional volume, though, is incredibly cool solely for the fact that it really does give you additional eyes and context of where you can expect the volume. In the event you get to, and we're going to go with the game plans once again, in the event you get to areas such as this, where you can start to expect, let's say, not a lot of volume, this is when you're going to start using other elements such as your rejection zones, your market structure, and of course, your analysis to really have a better understanding of what's going on within price. Now, after the rejection zone, the institutional volume, we do have, last but not least, and I'm sure a lot of you legends know it already, I'm putting the light theme on just because we have to get the color to be flexible based on the type of chart you're moving in, but for the moment, the fibs are black, and so that is why. But the fibs also work in an extremely dynamic manner. For those that are not used to fibs, Fibonacci levels are levels that ultimately show indications of where you can expect just decelerations, exhaustions, you can expect targets. Generally, you can just expect sensitivities. What's super cool, and once again, it's a big aspect of Excelsius, no matter the time frame you go on, even if you're on the minute, everything adjusts dynamically and accordingly to the structure that you're working with, right? And so on the 1 minute, it'll do the most recent leg. On the 15, it will measure a little bit larger, and this will continue to work as the time frame, in which you move on. And so the fibs in and of itself are just another nice feature as well to have when it comes down to using, just to have as additional areas where you can expect sensitivity, exhaustion, all of that. And so fibs in and of itself, boom, getting an alert here. We're going to be reviewing that in just a second. Let's take a look at it. Let's see what would happen. So we go to AUD CAD. Oh, we're on AUD CAD, funny enough. Okay. And yeah, you know, set an alert for a higher high. Let's take a look at that alert in and of itself. We'll see. What was that? I don't know where that alert came from. I feel very, very... Oh, right here, right? Oh, on the 15. We just created a higher high. Nice. By breaking the lower high. And notice how price... Love it. I don't need to say anything. You see it. Last but not least, you got the dashboard. The dashboard's wild. And the dashboard is something that you want to continue to utilize and really get comfortable with. The dashboard, and let's really blow this up here, the dashboard ultimately has a couple of variables that ultimately keep you up to date when it comes down to the market, market sentiment, and just more importantly, overall market environment. So you have three tabs here. You got a market volume, you got market session, market sentiment. It's really giving you indications. It's making you mindful of what's going on in the market for that given pair. And this, of course, continues to adjust based on, once again, the time frame that you work on. While this says here on the 15-minute that it's bullish, we go to the daily, this will very much say that it is bearish, right? And so, once again, the dashboard completely adjusts all based on the chart, the market environment that you are working with, and really does act as additional just mindfulness, just reminders and context to market environment and overall what's going on. And so, when it comes down to Excelsius, and just more importantly, the guts of Excelsius, that is, when it comes down to the performance side, what you can toggle on and off at this current time. Now, when we start moving into the alerts, that is when things really do start to take a whole nother level in context to Excelsius. Like I said before, Excelsius provides you with an immense amount of data and tools available at your fingertips, but it genuinely can do anything and everything, all based on what you desire for it to do. I'm going to delete all the alerts that I have here, and I'm going to show you exactly how the alert system works. We have developed a revolutionary alert system that ultimately keeps you aware of every single thing that is going on pertaining to Excelsius, market structure, and more importantly, market dynamics. Let's jump into it. Three ways that you can set alerts with Excelsius. You can set standalone alerts, where you're just looking for buy and sell signals. You can create sequence alerts, which you can customize completely to your desire. And at the same time, you can also set Excelsius on autopilot to always let you know when there is opportunity available in the market. Let's talk about the first alert, which is just simply setting a standard alert, just a standalone alert in and of itself. Let's say, for example, here we are on AUD CAD. When it comes down to setting your alerts, the first and most important thing is figuring out what type of take profit percentage setting that you want, because ultimately, remember, the take profit percentage you set will totally dictate, once again, how many trades are being fired away, and that, of course, will dictate, right, you know, how many trades Excelsius will alert you on. Now, secondly, more importantly, and I'm going to show you here, when you guys do go ahead and create your alerts, the time frame in which you select the alerts, it's also excuse me, legends, is also incredibly important pertaining to where you set the alert, because where you set the alert will ultimately dictate, on the first aspect that I'll show you, will dictate the time frame in which it will be looking for alerts. However, we're going to also show you how you don't have to necessarily be so specific if that is not something that you're looking to do. We have given complete flexibility and customization, all based, once again, on the individual's needs and just wants. So starting off, when it comes down to a basis of, you know, setting a, let's say in this example, another sell alert, as we can definitely see that we are bearish, what you do is as follows. You right click the chart, you go to add alert, and once you go to add alert here, then you'll see in the condition at the top, you'll simply change that from AUD CAD to Excelsius AI, and now you have a couple of different options. You can go ahead and set any type of alert that you would like to see in the market. One, in this example, we're just going to go ahead and set a strong sell alert. Once we do go ahead and set our sell alert, we're definitely going to go ahead and put for bar close, mainly for the fact that we always want candle closure with anything, with our trades, with signals. And so once we do go ahead and do that, this is something just for testing purposes. Webhooks are not required, but the first two parts are making sure that you change the condition to Excelsius, and then secondly, making sure you're selecting the type of alert that you would like. And then from there, it will show you the message that it will signal. When creating this alert, that simply just sets you your alert in context to Excelsius. Now be mindful, this is simply going to send you sell alerts all based on when Excelsius on this specific pair is going to send those alerts. Now, the alert system can really get a lot more intense, and as I said before, is really built for anybody and everybody. And so when going back into the alert system, let's say in an example like this, you really want to create a sequence of alerts where not only you would like to see a strong sell, but you'd like to see also multiple points of structure being broken on different time frames. Excelsius can do that as well. In this example, we've already set the strong sell alert. Now we're going to go ahead and set our sequence of alerts. Let's say, for example, we're dropping down into the 4-hour time frame. We're first and foremost going to go ahead and make sure that our market structure settings are selected. And maybe in this example here, what we'd like to see is a lower low being created, of course, which is by breaking the lows in addition to our sell alert. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to add an alert. I'm going to simply put a lower low here. And from there, it's going to tell me not only when a strong sell alert takes place, but also when a lower low takes place on the 4-hour time frame. Let's say I want the 2-hour time frame to take place as well. And maybe not only do I want the 2-hour time frame lower low to be broken, but maybe I also want the 2-hour higher low pass structure to be broken in addition. I can go ahead and set that sequence of alerts as well. And so what I would do is go ahead, right click, add the alert, go ahead, select Excelsius AI, and then from there go ahead and create a lower low, because when we break higher lows, we create lower lows, and from there it will indicate to me that new lows are being created not only in the structure but also in the entire base. And so you can do this all based on your configurations and customizations. You can do this endlessly, flawlessly, all based on your desires. Let me give you another example here real quick that goes back down into the way that you can set customization of alerts. Take AUD USD over here. You can see in this example that price not only just successfully broke these lows, but at the same time is still very, very much bearish from these last signals. And so without a doubt, you're definitely looking for further continued movements, but this is where you can mix and match. You can really have fun with it, all based on the comforts and flexibility of the trader. We know in the bigger picture that we're looking for sells, but who's to say how long it's going to take before that continued sell takes place? This is once again where you can really start to go and create the type of alerts that you would like. And so watch what I'm going to do in this regard, right? What we can see here is as follows. We can look for one of two things. We could either look for these breakdowns of these sell setups, or we can successfully look for potential short-term buys, which ultimately we can still build those bigger picture sells, and that is what is so incredibly unique. Let's play with regards to that. In this example here, we can see that if we wanted to really go for the short-term buys, right, of course, we're going to want to break down some of this past market structure here. In this case, when I do see some past market structure being broken, I do like to go down to a smaller time frame, just ultimately to see if there is some new structure that Excelsius is identifying, which just allows me to give better points. You can definitely see that there are in here, and we definitely have not, broken down anything in that way. And so what I would go ahead and do in something like this is, once again, being mindful that, hey, you know what, the daily, it's bearish, but if I want to look for some short-term buys and try to create maybe a short-term hedge in this way, I definitely can go ahead and do so. So what I'll go ahead and do is, let's say, I want to create these short-term buys. I'll simply just look for higher highs. What you'll go ahead and do is add the alert. From there, you will then go ahead and ask for a higher high, and once that higher high is being created, of course, you will be alerted. Now, once again, you're being mindful that this, of course, is a very short-term play because of what we saw in the bigger picture, and we're going to put on everything else, and you'll see how it all comes into a nice marinated environment. And so at the same time, though, you can completely mix and match accordingly. Let's say, for example, you're still so adamant about those buys because you believe that this pullback is going to be so intense. Not only do you have to wait for these points in structure to break, you can completely also set it based on what potentially could happen in the moment. Let's say if price starts to pull back in this way and you would ultimately like to break down for a new structure, you can set those alerts as well. You can simply just right click, add the alert, drop down and say give me and develop me a lower high on AUD USD. And what we'll tell you is that when a lower high is being created, and once that lower high is established, then you can go ahead and of course right click, add that new alert, and be able to now go ahead and look to attack that new point and structure that has developed. And so the alerts can be completely customized, all based on the individual's desire, goals, and overall just use case when it comes down to what they're looking to use Excelsius for. Now, last but not least, not only are the sequence alerts incredibly cool, but let's say you're someone who's on the go, you're working, you got just in general a crazy schedule. We made it so that Excelsius is an autopiloted system as well. Excelsius will tell you the developments of the market structure, the dynamics of the market structure, and more importantly, when opportunities are available. Simply just right click, click add alert, bring down to Excelsius, and this function right here simply alerts you of any opportunities or movements that are taking place in that given structure. Now be mindful, once again, it's all based on the settings in which you're setting it on, because that will also dictate the signals, the frequency, and everything along those lines. And so when you go into the alert side of things, you also have complete flexibility and just overall customization for what you want to use it for. And so now, before we go into all the questions, let's run through a game plan with how, let's say in this example, AUD USD, I would go about using Excelsius with the tools that I have available. To start, I'm actually going to take off the signals because I don't need the signals first to identify what's going on with the market. I want to have my rejection zones on, I want to have my market structure, my market check candles on, and I also want to have my institutional volume. What I do automatically, and I always have the dashboard on, We're also going to put on the color theme here. And I also didn't show you legends. Apologies. Excelsius has interchangeable color themes, so that you guys are always staying fresh based on the latest charts. Themes are uploaded monthly. Let's go. So, at nighttime, I really vibe with the dark theme. For the members that are in the chat today, that are part of the live, make sure you take a look at the new resources in the Discord channel. There is a video there that shows you guys how to get these types of themes. Remember, Excelsius is pre-built with, of course, these colors, but in context to these themes of the backgrounds and so forth, you can get, you can get access to that. For example purposes, though, we'll stay with Excelsius's colors. We'll stay with the smoothness of it, and so jumping straight into it. When I go about assessing, and I'll do a demonstration here now putting it all together, when I, for example, go ahead and try to assess really what's going on, let's just try to, let's take one out for a second, and let's just really look at what's going on in the bigger picture. So we can definitely see what Excelsius is telling us is a couple of things. First and foremost, market in and of itself just recently broke through some past structure. Even though market sentiment is indicating bullish, this might be just due to the short-term momentum here. Please be mindful that this is being updated as well, these two indications here, just because, and you'll see this is not currently showing on the daily, it's currently being worked on. But just in context of looking at market structure here, we can see that the most recent thing that has happened is that structure did just recently break. And so what we can see is that at this current moment, market is without a doubt bearish. For my market participants, my market structure, trading legends, you all know at some point we'll be expecting some type of lower high for a potential lower low being created. So you have two potential opportunities here. You have the short-term buys and you have the sells, which of course are in line with the bigger picture. Now before jumping into it, we want to be mindful as well of what's going on. Market not only is pulling back into this previous low, but secondly, it's also pushing into the first area of the zone, of course, which is just giving us indication that we may expect some type of pullback. And so automatically we're being mindful that, hey, we're in somewhat of a bullish environment short term just because of the environment that we are. We could expect some type of pullback. And secondly, we want to be mindful that it's going to be short term. We are still very much bearish. We did just recently break a point in structure, and so we want to keep that in mind. In addition, what I'll then go ahead and do is throw ahead on the institutional volume. Just I want to see where the majority of orders sit, and now I'm starting to paint a bigger picture because I'm saying to myself, hey, okay, we're saying that price does have the ability to pull back. Where could we expect price to pull back to? Let me take a look to the left here, and we definitely have some huge volume sitting within this region, and it is a relatively dense region, and it should be because market once again is bearish. You're expecting continued sells. You're expecting this movement to be choppy, to be short term. And so When I'm looking at it in this fashion, I start off, I'm on the daily, I'm looking at what's going on with the market, I'm letting Excelsius tell me what's going on. I haven't even put a single line on the chart yet. I'm letting Excelsius tell me what's going on. Once I now have a better picture, now I'm dropping down into the smaller time frames. Personally, I like to use the institutional volume on the daily. A lot of the tools I do like to utilize on the daily just because Excelsius was built on the daily and the higher time frames, and so that is why it's incredibly important that you're first just looking at a lot of these things from the daily. But that doesn't mean as you start to drop down to the smaller time frames that necessarily things are not necessarily going to work as smoothly. You just want to make sure once again you're being mindful of what is going on in the higher time frames, because higher time frame runs the show. It is the direction of all. And so going back into it, once I do have a better assessment of where the volume sits, what the overall structure is, maybe I'm changing my theme around a little bit because I'm feeling the vibes today, then we start dropping into the smaller time frame and we're starting to create the game plans. As we said before, short-term buys, bigger term sells. Let's drop into the 4 here. All right, so first and foremost, let Excelsius load, let it dynamically act. And I totally forgot, now we're going to fire away at the signals. Of course, we want to know when the opportunities are available. And so we can definitely see here straight away that Excelsius has been giving us indications of potential sell signals. We can see one sell signal got minted there, phenomenal. Another sell signal, all these sell signals got minted, and we currently have some sell signals being developed. It definitely does make sense to me why sell signals are being developed. We are starting to push into a major point within structure. We did just recently push out of this previous point of rejection, and so once again, maybe as we were discussing on the daily that we were expecting that short-term buy, that is precisely what just happened, and if anything, it may not be appropriate for that continued buys. But you know what? Let's not be subjective. Let's let Excelsius tell us what is appropriate and not appropriate. So what I'm simply going to do is do one of the two followings. First and foremost, I want to give myself some structure. There's no structure here. It's just a straight impulse. So I'm going to drop down in some smaller time frames here. I'm going to be saying to myself, give me some structure that I can start looking for some sell opportunities on. Still the same thing. Let's drop to the 1 here. Give me some structure that I can start making. What an impulsive movement in here, right? Still, for the hourly, we got really low for the moment, and so we'd be waiting for these points if you'd really want, or of course you drop to the 30 and 15, and you will be going ahead and you'll be getting these new points of developed structure, which of course you can start looking for sell opportunities on. In this case here, I would go ahead and set an alert, and then from there, I would look to set for a lower low to be created because I'm looking to break the higher low, and of course, once that does set, that goes in line now with this sell alert, of course, that is also being triggered, and from there, I will look to manage my position accordingly. Now, going back into that short-term buy, I'm definitely going to want to be jumping into the higher time frames here because being mindful, once again, the majority of the pressure is to the downside. And so with that, you want to make sure that you're using higher time frames, using more probable assessment ultimately to potentially get some better plays. And so in this case here, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to A, set for me a higher high being created. Ultimately, it's giving us indications here that, hey, you know what, this trend is furthering, and maybe if we get above, I can start expecting price not only to push into past points of structure, but at the same time, maybe now starting to push into an area which the rejection zones will be covering. 2 key areas where we can expect some deceleration. But at the same time, if this doesn't happen, we also want to be mindful of the potential of some potential structure that is going to develop. And so in the event that some potential structure does also develop, I will also go ahead and add an alert in which I will then go ahead and say, please develop me a lower high, in which once that lower high successfully develops, then I can also go ahead and look for that next buy opportunity. And I can very much do the same thing on the sell side. And of course, last but not least, I always like to go ahead just for good conscience. I like to set the autopilot feature just because personally, I really do enjoy having Excelsius watching at all times when I'm not at the chart. I cannot tell you in words how comforting it is seeing just a line of notifications on my phone. I cannot express enough the level of comfort that comes with knowing that I am always being looked out for in the event that I am slipping up that week and I just can't do my analysis or be there right on the money when I need to. And so, before we go into any of your questions, Excelsius is a state-of-the-art trading algorithm designed to give you an unfair advantage. It's backed by 18 plus years of the highest quality tick data available. We are at a disadvantage when it comes to competing, and more importantly, just overall market participants. This gives us the unadvantage that we seek. It gives us what we need to start doing the damage that's required. I can't stress enough, legends, how excited I am for each and every single one of you to go ahead and utilize this. Let's start going into the questions here. Let's start breaking this all down. Wow, I just did a 50-minute demo. And all of you legends stayed on. Incredible. Let's jump into it. How many quarters? We got that. 18 plus and a half years. Theo, you have a question? Go ahead.
All right. So, like this example specifically, for those sell orders, like those two most recent like sell signals, is that where you would hypothetically sell? Like
So
if
for
you just
me,
had the alerts on?
For me personally, and as I've used in the resource guide, I don't let Excelsius be the sole driver of my trading. Just because sell indications do come about, I still like to make sure that I'm putting game plans together, which is why I showed you in that example. I will look for now, for example, new points of market structure to develop and really start breaking it down. If you wanted to take the sell signals verbatim, you certainly can as well. Just take a look at the example above here. Sometimes Excelsius will print, and then a couple candles later, you'll be in drawdown before that momentum really does kick in. And sometimes Excelsius will print, and it will be a no drawdown entry. It's about being mindful, once again, in context to what is going on in the bigger picture, and not necessarily saying, you know what, the sell signal printed right here, I'm putting 100% of my capital on, and if it moves 3 pips up, I'm screwed, right? You know, it's once again, let's say, oh, you got into the sell signal. If you took it verbatim, you should be mindful of what Excelsius is telling you in context to where your stops should be, and just make sure that you're planning accordingly once again. And so it just comes down to, Theo, the user, and ultimately the goals associated. For someone like you who's an active market participant, I would say go about it in combination. Use it as I showed, right? Use it in a way where you get a sell signal. And you know what? If the sell signal or the buy signal happens to print at such crazy environments, right? You know, an example is where, like, you know what, we're pushing into previous regions, or we're getting the previous highs here, or whatever it is. Beautiful. But at the same time, if you want to create that, you know, breakdown effect where ultimately not only are you getting these sell signals being printed, but you can also now look for those further continued movements, you can go ahead and do so. And for the record, for anybody that doesn't think there aren't stops in here, there are stops in here. Just Excelsius doesn't really lose that much. I'm just being honest. There are stopping points in here, but nonetheless, you can also use the market structure settings. You can use the rejection zones. You can use all the tools available to also utilize targets, stops, and everything along those lines. So I guess also the one thing I want to add to your question, this is a balancing act. So Excelsius provides you with unparalleled tools, analysis, and data. The combination of the trader and Excelsius breeds success. That is the design.
Right, because you know, I kind of, like you said, you have traders, you teach them the fundamentals, and that's really what I took from you. So what I plan to do with Excelsius is, like you said, just use it as that extra confluence, because now that I trade a little bit differently, like even if you trade a little differently, like you said, the base of the building blocks of how I trade are still, you know, in line with market
They're
structure.
still 100% the same, and that is the exact reasons on why you have the ability to customize and just be flexible, all based on your preference, right? Once again, you know, you can take them verbatim, but you have to be mindful of what's going on in the bigger picture. You know, don't come and tell me you're going to be taking sales for that. If you go to the daily time frame, what was the most recent thing that happened within structure? We just broke previous lows, and more importantly, where are we pushing into? You know, an area that Excelsius is indicating that you can expect some type of deceleration and exhaustion. And so with that, you want to take all of that into consideration, right, when that sell signal presents. And you're saying to yourself, hey, you know what? Yeah, you look at structure, and it's very probable within the next couple of days, you can expect that again. And that is just pure market structure, me speaking. But you know
Right.
what? When looking at Excelsius in the end of the day in the context of those cells, right, it's just being mindful of, if I take it verbatim, let me also be mindful of what is going on so I can set the expectation of, you know what, I might be in drawdown if I take it verbatim, or you say to yourself, you know what, hey, Excelsius indicated a sell. I'm also just going to add one more layer to it where, you know what, the moment that, let's say in this example here, now this let's say this higher low breaks, watch this. This is you're in, stops are above, and then you're like, all right, let's go, baby, money. You know what I mean? And you're looking to run it in that way as well. Now, also be mindful, and this is something incredibly important, when it comes to the signals, you need to wait for candle closure. Okay? This is a trading view issue, and there's nothing that we can do on it at this current time. You have to wait for closes of candles. Sometimes you will see, for example, like Excelsius start opening up, or you'll see a cell that will populate sometimes, and then all of a sudden maybe the cell won't be there. You want to always wait for candle closure. There's nothing you can do in context of trading view at this time just because of how it's currently set up. But I'm going to be scheduling a meeting with them. I'm going to be seeing if we can speak to their whole team who does this and see if we can fix that. The reason why is because, take a look at this, and this is just why it just came off on the top of my head, and I don't want any unanswered questions. You see this, and you see a beautiful sell signal being called on Excelsius right now, and more importantly, look where it called it, right at the top, right? But you go to the 4 hour, candle's still open, you know what I mean, for another hour and 3 minutes, if it was printing in this way. Apologies, I thought that we saw a live candle that was printing somewhere. Maybe I was wrong. Oh, there, okay. There you go. Never mind. In the event it does happen, wait for candle closure. Always. Always, always, always.
All right. All right.
But,
And
yeah, go ahead.
would you say that it's like Excelsius is just as accurate on the lower time frames, or like what are your thoughts on that?
I personally recommend that you should view it as you would go down to it. So like, for example, if you're getting a daily sell signal or a daily buy signal, you're looking at that way differently than if you're getting a 5-minute buy or sell signal in context to expectancy. Like, you should not think, I got a 5-minute sell signal, we're moving 500 pips, right? And so that's also to be mindful. Once again, the stats and the data that you do see presented online, that's based off of higher time frame trading. That is precisely why when you go ahead and get signed up, not only should you go through the whole resource guide, look at all the videos and things like that, read this. I verbatim put it on the bottom. We recommend first viewing Excelsius from the daily time frame and trading accordingly. So, yeah, it's incredibly important that we're mindful of this just because of the development and where Excelsius was built. Excelsius was built higher time frame trading. As you legends know, I'm a higher time frame trader, but we needed to make sure that you legends had the ability to move with market structure, rejection zones, and all of that accordingly. It's not to say that the signals are not accurate if you do move down into the smaller time frames, but there will be times such as this where you do, for example, get caught, but nonetheless, it doesn't mean that the trades are invalid. It's about how you go about managing it. Personally, if these sell signals printed, I would not personally be putting any of my stops in this structure. My stops would be right above the whole thing.
Right.
And
one last request. I would just like to see if you could run Excelsius on NAS 100. I just want to see how it would look on that, because that's what I mean.
There's nothing to hide, baby. Come on now. Let's go. Just go straight into it. Boom. I'm not going to cookie cut or anything. Should see some nice buys on there. Yeah. And once again, though, it's important. Look, I'm going to do this in a bigger picture so you can see. Look, I have a large TP right now. I changed this to 0.5. Boom. You're going to get a tremendous amount of more trades that are populating. It's not to say that if you go all the way down, it's going to just start spit firing like no tomorrow. But once again, it's just all based on the TP. This is incredibly important that you really test all based on the pairs. Like you said, I like to look at NAS. I like to look at those pairs. But I will say from personal preference, it's beyond on top of it when it comes down to the indexes, because where have the indexes been moving, champ?
It's up, man. It's just
Right.
constantly up.
And Excelsius is what type of algorithm? It's a hard trending
Trend.
algorithm,
Yep.
right? So that's
Yep.
why when you guys look, and I have, you legends are going to get it, and you guys will see. If you just go through the charts and you look at, and let's throw the rejection zone so you can just really see this verbatim. When you see Excelsius gets into a pattern, and I'll put this more just for the FX pairs, I tend to recommend for it to be a lot more dynamic. For indexes, for cryptos, I recommend to have a lot more of a longer time frame in that, longer take profit percentage in that way, just because, just one second. So yeah, ultimately, when you are looking at the pairs, right, what you will see is that when we get into a hard trending state, Celsius not only destroys, but it kicks ass left and right. When it does get into, for example, you take examples like this, where you know what, even though it's TPing, it's not necessarily going as long. You want to be mindful of what's going on in the bigger picture. It's where the market structure settings come ultimately, and you can just see here, market's what? It's range bound, right? Market's not going to really do anything in that bigger picture. It's just been stuck in here for the last year and a half, versus like you get something like Euro USD, who has been just moving down and down and down for the longest time. Notice how well this continues to compete as it continues to get into, the type of environment. And so this is the biggest thing that you want to be mindful of. And more importantly, what should give you confidence is that just because it's switching direction, it doesn't start folding and it's like, oh, I need to start looking for buys. No, you know what I mean? In the end of the day, it really does stay true to the way that it's developed and the way that it's built. And so notice just how I quickly just changed the take profit percentage, and now you're getting a different array of trades in context to those goals and those settings. But yeah, going back onto the NAS, champ, because I know that's what you asked, and I was just getting excited and going around, whether it's US 30 or it's NAS or it's S&P. It's great. And you see there are stops. Some pairs it tends to be lights out. Other pairs you'll see a little more choppiness in that regard. And this is for you to really mix and match to your preferences and to your likings.
This is a kind of random question. Is it are the colors customizable, or is it stuck on red and blue and green and red?
Now, champ, you go into style here. You can do whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
Completely customizable and flexible to your needs. Now, what should be the most exciting thing for all of you legends is that if you think this is as exciting as I think it is, this is only V1. Let that settle with you for a second. This is version 1. And it's already kick-ass. And this is version 1. That is what's so exciting about being part of the Excelsius community, is that your input, your feedback is going to transform this, is going to make this what we all seek it to be. Any other questions, Theo? Are you good? Okay. Marvin, any questions, champ? Except getting you signed up. Already said, how do you set autopilot alerts? So you simply just go ahead and you right click and you click add alert. And then once you go to the condition, you go ahead and click Excelsius, and then you click any alert function call. And from there, Excelsius will then go ahead and send you alerts on anything for that given pair. Works on everything. These were really cool to see. Like I said, like when you go and you look at certain markets, right, you're going to want to adjust the settings. Like I would never recommend, unless, I mean, it's not for me to recommend, but I just personally wouldn't trade like that. I am not a loose cannon, right? So, personally, I am going to make sure that, I am setting Celsius based to how I like it. So in something like this, I like to go ahead and maybe set just higher TPs just because once again, that is where you're expecting it. Now also notice this too. Notice how the stops didn't appear here before when I changed it, right? When I was at 1%, notice how no stops were being hit because this was all hitting take profit. And so once again, this is for you to really figure out and also adjust based on your settings, based on your likings, okay? Marvin, baby, what's going on?
Yo, what's good, legend?
What's good, champ? What'd you think? Questions, comments, tell me. Give me the rundown.
I got one question real quick. So I know with E and Nick, they teach rejections, impulse, those type of different plays. Are you gonna implement that in that as well, where it gives you a signal for a rejection play or a third point play or stuff like that as
A
well? Because
thousand
I
percent.
know,
If you take a look at how let's take a look at some of the signals right now, and let's go take a look just specifically at the FX side because we can really just look at, for example, when signals are sent and how signals are sent. Where's the signal sent on? Not only is it sent on the third point that you're looking for, what's it always set on? The impulse, the continuation, right? This in and of itself is designed all based on, right? Oh, I think you unmuted, but yeah, you should be good now, Marvin. But yeah, in context
yeah,
to
I'm good now. Thank you.
when it's context to where it's fitting, you tell me where you see it's fitting. It's fitting exactly on what's attempting to be developed, the third point and the continuations. If you look at exactly in line of where the market structure is, and let's just bring this up a little bit in context to just to give you less signals, you can kind of see. Just look at exactly what develops after the signals are spit, right? You are getting your third points, you are getting your continuations in those manners, right?
Yeah, that's dope.
Yep, they're designed exactly as you would hope for them to be. Yep,
This
look at
this
GA,
is
right?
this is
Like,
this is
and
nothing
this is
to.
and like look how cool this is. Like I'm so happy to show you guys this. Like this is a good example, right? Like happens to be literally the first chart that I'm showing you. That's not like, well, once again, if I change my TP settings, it'll go like, it'll start really competing in this way. But anyways, I'm gonna go back and I'm just gonna show you guys to do the 1%. This is what I also love about Excelsius, which you have to appreciate. You see, it's competing in this example with cells, and then it gets stopped out, and then boom, we go. You know,
Fine bars.
you know what I mean? But once again, and that's for you though to also figure out because you'll see, right? If we change this, you'll also see, maybe not just because of here, but once again, the amount of signals that you change here will dictate,
So
how
you
many.
would recommend what 0.01% to
I
risk
would.
on that?
So don't look at this as so much of what you're risking as much as what this will look at is more so frequency in context of signals as well as the time frame that you're moving on, but also just more importantly, this really is a good gauge for the type of trader that you are. So if you're someone who's really on the move, like wants to be shorter term and things like that, you should definitely have a shorter term take profit percentage. But for someone who, for example, is wanting to be a little bit more of a swinger trader or just more importantly just a longer term trader, you can have just a longer term take profits, but at the same time you also want to assess the market and more importantly the type of market that you'll be competing in. So like if you're in the FX market, I mean if you're in the crypto market, you might want to be having longer take profit percentages just because the market can handle such a movement, right? Versus like if you get into a pair like AUD NZD, the market in and of itself is more of a slower term market, which is why you want to go ahead and adjust that take profit percentage. Does that make sense, Marvin?
Yeah, thank you. I keep getting muted for some reason, but yeah, that definitely makes sense. I also wanted to say, man, I'm definitely proud of you. Um,
Appreciate you,
to see
champ.
how far, you've come and stuff like that. Like even this whole trading indicator or algorithm, you know, call it, it's different, man, from getting the full volume course and seeing where you're at now. It's an inspiration for sure, man.
I appreciate you, Marvin. I hope that I can show you legends that anything is possible when you put your mind to it. And for me to, be able to bring this to you guys and understand this is not me, this is a we thing. There was a beyond a team effort to get this done. Um, I can't just stress enough how crazy life is. Like I can't even put into words, you know what I mean, that we're here. And I can deliver this to you guys. And as I said before, like I think this is crazy and this is only V1, right? Like I can't wait till I hear all of your guys' feedback day by day, the improvements, the adjustments, this and that, and we're gonna make those changes and we're gonna continue to improve and we're gonna continue to grow, and it's very, very exciting. And the best advice that I could give to each and every single one of you is just to stay the path. Take Theo. Started with me when he's 13, 14 years old, and now here he is, fully, funded trader, and more importantly, just, doing everything that he seeked out to do. He stayed on the path, right? This is really how you legends need to view it as a whole. You need to stay on the path, and just know that as you stay on the path, doors tend to open, because with more consistent actions, the higher probability, that things are going to work out for you. And so, Marvin, I appreciate you, champ. It's more for us. Pink Sand is going to be an environment, an ecosystem that we all can participate in, and that is the genuine goal. And so, Excelsius is a step in that direction, and I'm just excited for you guys to really get in there and start competing with Excelsius. That's the whole point of these, live lines, and more importantly, just trying to really take our trading to a whole nother level, as a whole. Thank you, Marvin. I appreciate you, champ. But was I able to, because I know you had a boatload of questions, was I able to clarify on a lot of that for you, champ?
Yeah, just watching this video, you just doing this live definitely answered a lot of questions. I'm actually in that AU buy right now. It's a temporary short buy, but I was glad to kind of see it in action. I did notice it did have some sells that I wouldn't personally enter those sells,
Okay.
but I definitely see why it showed those sells as well.
And this is, once again, it's not meant for Excelsius to just, force it upon you, right? You dictate Excelsius' pace, all based on what you are looking for Excelsius to do. Obviously, Excelsius knows in the bigger picture that it's bearish, and more importantly, it's going to start looking for sells as we start nearing these regions, and more importantly, as we start nearing those sensitive areas. But it comes down to the overall trader and just the goals associated to the trader and what they're trying to do. That's why I said, for me, there's one of two ways that you can do about it. If you take the trades verbatim, well, at least use what Excelsius' market structure is trying to tell you. It tells you right there the last high is there. Use those points, right? At the same time, and as we've reviewed, you could say, listen, I don't want to take these sells right now. I actually want to drop down, right, and really start looking for, market structure to start breaking down for me to really start looking for any type of sells to take place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a juicy sell, though. I'm not gonna lie. That's money.
Yeah, I might have to exit out of my temporary buys, man. I don't know yet.
Nah, bro, listen. Go and get Excelsius and let Excelsius tell you how you need to move, based as well with your analysis and what you see. Take your analysis, take Excelsius, and conclude. Listen, in the end of the day, you're not wrong to be looking in short-term buys. In all honesty, until this point of structure breaks, and more importantly, that's on the 15. We take a look at the 1, and we'll just take a look at this in and of itself. Until really this starts breaking down, you're still looking for bullish momentum in this way. Excelsius just happens to be a little bit of ahead of the curve, that's all. It's kind of wild, I'm not going to lie. It kills me. And then people are like, what about this one? And what about this one? And I'm like, all right, fair enough. But then, and this is what I say to them, in a day or two, when you see this all complete, you're gonna be like, oh, yep, that one went through, and that one went through, and they all went through. And so, once again, it's about marinating this to your trading and really looking at it as the suit and armor that you need to compete with the institutions. Because, quite frankly, without this, we are genuinely handicapped with all that is going on. It is just not fair unless you would be at an institution. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate the live, and I appreciate the cell signal you just gave me as well.
No worries, champ. No worries. You know, Excelsius is here for you, champ. When you get set up, let me know. I'll make sure you're taken care of. Yeah, Marvin, enjoy it, champ.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, for sure. Any other questions, lads? Oh, Dylan wants to go. Dylan, I know that you've been a part of Excelsius now for a minute. Go right ahead, champ.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm driving. You know me. I'm always on the move. But
You know the business.
so for the guys asking about the smaller time frame stuff, like I'm 30 hours straight into Excelsius now. Go to GU. I'll just show them something.
30 hours into it. I can't get over it. You loving it?
I haven't slept in a day and a half. You tell me.
Tell me, what do you want me to do? 30-minute?
Well, did I fucking leave here?
All right, tell me. 30 minutes.
No. Okay, so I'm usually a swing trader, right? Like I've told you before, I'll hedge and scale in my swing position. Okay, so GU, if you go to like the 4 hour with your rejection zones on and just your market structure, get the candles. You don't need any of the buys or nothing. Just do those 3 settings. Okay.
5.
And then I only trade like 8 pairs now, right? A lot of like dollar-based pairs, correlations, and then I dabble in the crypto obviously, but I don't really day trade it. And then higher vols like indices, like US 30, I'm big on, and same with gold. But anyways, so this right here, if you go on the higher time frames, you'll see that you've had this major downward trend for weeks now, right? Like GU's been going down for a while, same as EU because of the dollar and everything that's going on. So anyways, I'm in the buy from, where's MC4 here? 32,250 is my buy, but it's interesting because on the 4 hour time frame, you're hitting that rejection zone, and I entered that trade like before I even had.
Oh, that's right. Did you enter it because of this?
Yeah. Well, if you remember, I trade your way plus other ways, right? So you got a 4 hour double bottom and needing a correction. Okay, yeah. So just take that. But the craziest part is I enter the position. Now go to the 5. Go to the 5 minute.
Okay.
Watch the candle change near my entry.
32.50. 32.25. Oh,
look at that.
Get out. Right there.
Yeah, okay. So now that's that. I'm still in that. And go to the 1 minute and the 5 minute time frame. I'm in a sell from 32,589.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
32.
Dude, check the 32,589. Check the rejection zones.
Wow.
It was an aggressive entry, but I'm already in the buy, so I don't care, right? I'm hedging. Wow. Who cares?
And you're already protected too. You're on the money. Oh, right. Oh, it's right at the structure break.
Yeah, man. See what I mean? The candle changed, and I'm like, fuck it, let's go. It's a hedged position now because overall I'm looking long term buys, right? So who cares? And at the end of the day, now even if this thing continues to tank, what does it fucking matter? I'm in both ways.
Wow.
So everybody's wondering about the lower time frames. Like I've been talking to Albert the last day or whatever about this. It's not about Excelsius. It's not about the buys. It's not about. You have to know what you're doing, right? Like I just gave you my trading plan for GU. Like I can give you more if you want. Go enter it. Go make some money. But you got to understand like what's going on. So like a big piece of the Excelsius is it's literally giving you all the tools you need on the smaller time frames. And if you're a long-term trader, use it to your advantage. You can scalp and trade every leg with ease. Before, we had to sit there and be like, okay, well, let's dissect this entire situation and what am I going to do? Well, these rejection zones, just from what I've back tested here in the last day and a bit, they're money. Like like, I don't know, you can literally take everything off and just throw those on there and then run through 4 or 5 different time frames. You'll get entries. Like I'm in a risk-free position both ways. And
Dylan, the energy is radiating. It's like you have just transformed.
I didn't lift a finger.
Bro, you're getting me so excited to go and compete out there.
Oh yeah, I'm up 8.5% in 30 hours.
Oh my gosh. And then and then once again, Excelsius, tells you as new structure develops, you manage your stop accordingly, and you play, as Dylan would say, ping pong with the whole thing.
Yeah, like there's no reason why you can have your bias and have a big position, but everybody in here knows market structure. Well, if you don't have relief, if you don't have a pullback, you're not going to continue your move. So why don't you trade the whole thing?
Wow.
You need one to make more money on the others. You might as well trade both. Right. Even if even on a small account, like I didn't understand this either. And for those of you who don't know me as well, like I've never traded a demo because there's no skin in the game. It's easy. But like with these smaller time frame trades, like if you're on a 100K FTMO, if you're on a 200K FTMO, if you're on a $10,000 personal account, you can't tell me that making $50 6 times on your bullish swing trade, and those are just your short positions. Like, do you realize how many more trades you can now lose? They're paid for.
Mm-hmm. You mean how many trades you can win?
No, like for these short-term moves, Albert. Let's say
you mean if you were I got you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if I can bang off 1 second, getting a coffee here.
No, you good.
Large double, that's everything. Thank you. And so yeah, like if you can get, like I said, I'm going long on my GU trade, but if I can get, at 0.5% risk, an extra 1 or 2% out of the shorts I take on the way up, like look all that over the course of a quarter, you're up hundreds of more percent than if you just sit there and hold your swing.
Let me ask you. Go ahead, and then go ahead, and I'll ask you.
You know how many times I've been in a swing trade? I watched this massive impulse happen, and then I literally watched my profits cut in half until a lower, higher lows made. Why don't you trade it?
Huh. So let me ask, because this is something that I was touching on throughout the live tonight. Do you feel like it's making you just so much more mindful and aware of what's going on in market in and of itself?
100%.
Love it. That is the biggest thing,
and that's the thing too, Albert, is like I may take my entries a little differently than most. I may do not, like you said, not everybody's the same.
Right.
But in regards to holding your trade, managing a position, knowing what, if this happens, I'm doing that. If that happens, I'm doing this. It's all the same, right? You're gonna need highs and lows in your direction to make money, or you're gonna need highs and lows against you to shut it down and flip your bias, right? So, a lot of people.
And that's why it was designed in the way that it was, right? Because we didn't want that. We launched Excelsius, and it's like, well, I don't compete exactly in that way. You need to be able to customize to the way that you compete.
Yeah, exactly. So, amazing. I just thought it was crazy that I go down, I check the 5, and my exact entries are the exact candle. It changes.
And you really look at, for example, like you look at how it hugged. Like it hugs. It hugged. It's so. Listen, I'm a fangirl for this. When it comes down to like Excelsius, it's wild. I agree that when you really look and Legends, if you can kind of tell, Dylan's energy is beyond radiating because he's now, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it creates a whole new concept in your head in context to the ability and capabilities that you can do. I mean, look at the way you're moving. I'm not saying you weren't moving like that before, but it seems like you can even move, even more effortless than you were before. You know
It's
what I
not
mean?
that well, and for example, me, like I'm a pretty busy guy. I work all the
Right.
time, but so this is awesome. My phone's going off all the time, but it's all
How are
relevant
the
information, right?
alerts? How are the alerts going on for you?
They're really good.
Good.
Well, you know everything, right? Like,
Right.
for example, I'm in a position with zero risk either way. So whatever's made, maybe I take profit on the sell, carry on with the buy, or we'll see what kind of alerts I get over the night, right? But either way, Excelsius put me in a position in what, a matter of 90 minutes or so of risk-free trading. You tell me.
Yeah. Straight.
Well, you know what I mean, though. But like you and I talked before, the biggest thing is going to be per trader. Like it's a lot easier for me. I don't watch the whole market anymore after doing this for a few years because I just some of the pairs I don't like AN we were
Right.
talking about. I don't give
Right.
like a pair that's moving 20 pips in a week. Like you can't make any money doing that. I'm not even looking at it, right?
And you are 100% on the money, and this goes back down into it is all, and you said it earlier. You dictate, the intensity of Excelsius. If you want to go full blown, like you are, Dylan, you are competing like no tomorrow right now. You know what I mean? Like you're getting me so excited to go and compete.
You just got to figure out how it moves for you.
Right. That's
right.
The biggest thing.
Because like I said, I'm usually a longer term trader, but the last few months I've been like, well, this is stupid. Like I'm waiting for this pullback. On the higher time frames, I know it's still moving up. Like I started trading them. Well, you know how easy it is with Excelsius. You can't fuck it up. You can't. If you do, if you can't manage a trade now compared to what we used to do, right? With 9,000 levels and hours and hours of chart work for if you can't manage your position now, I just don't know what to tell you. I'm just being blunt. Like I'm pretty outspoken about it, but
you're absolutely right.
Just like these rejection zones. Like everybody's like, a lot of people too, traders I've talked to, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. They're like, why? They're like, that's like 10 pips. I said, yeah, 10 pips times how many small term 5-minute pullbacks on a 100 pip swing trade are you going to get? Probably 10. That's an extra 100 pips.
Mm-hmm.
Like for all of us, like I'm funded now and a lot more capital than I used to work with, but you got to compete this way and you have to be hungry for the small moves as much as the big ones, or you're never going to grow your account.
Never. And more importantly, you're never going to get better as a trader. I mean, Dylan, the way that you speak, do you remember the first time you came on a full volume and, the live training and you were speaking just about your, whole experience, and look at you are now. What is it, a year and a half, 2 years later? I don't know how long it is, but night and day. Oh
yeah. That's why that's what I was saying too, for the new guys coming in the education side. Like that is, and I don't know if you mentioned this or not. I was at work and I was listening to the previous 50 minutes or hour we've been on here, but like the education is still going to be just as important for all the students, because you have to understand what Excelsius is doing. Like it can spit all the spies, sells, higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, whatever it wants. If you don't know that it's telling you there's a structure developing inside a bigger structure, or if you get stuck on the smaller time frame, so you get lost in the 1 hour, the 4 hour, you still have to be mindful of what you're doing and where you're going. You still got to have that awareness. You know what I mean?
It's meant to be the added confluence that you need to your already analysis, already your level of competition, right?
I just showed you guys how easy it is. Like that's a phone screen worth of candles, and we're up some money here.
You competed like no tomorrow.
Well, you can. Yeah, I don't have to sit there. Like half the work is done for you. You just have to take the data and make a decision.
Do you mind if I post this tomorrow for others to hear?
Post whatever you want. I don't care.
Oh, it's no, because it's just it even truthfully it made me just open my eyes more in context to different game plans that you can put together. And this goes back down into the video. I'm sure you watched it earlier. It's like by the end of this, there are going to be so many different ways that you can utilize Excelsius. It's going to be endless. It's just, as you said, you have to figure it out for what works for you. I mean, look at that. I mean, Dylan straight away, boom, and like It's crazy just the way that he's maneuvering through everything. But the most important thing that everyone needs to take away from what Dylan is saying here is that he's being so mindful of what's going on in the bigger picture, right? You know, in the end of the day, even though he's moving in this way, he's so adamant about what's going on. And of course, you can always just go down and look at Excelsius, and Excelsius is going to tell you verbatim what is happening in the bigger picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, like my long-term target on GU is one, I don't know, 1.36, 1.35. We'll see as we come up there. Just but again, a lot of that doesn't so much come from the way we trade. It comes from I only trade 5 or 6 pairs, right? So yeah.
No,
But if you
absolutely. And even you look at it from, like, let's say the daily standpoint, you say to yourself, wow, you know what? You know, and it makes sense once again because it's like, all right, well, you look at it and take away just even the structure. We're bearish right now. You can expect some type of short-term pullbacks if you get there, right? And as you're saying,
exactly, and it's a pound pair, so you know you're gonna get your pullback is more than most pairs move in a week.
Right, exactly. It's going to be 50, 60, 70, 100 plus pips, so you will get that. And then now, to your point, it's like, oh, hey, price is slowing down. I bet you if I threw an institutional volume profile, and especially drop to the weekly here, look where we're sitting. Look at the 2 fat candles that we're about to push into. You know what I mean? Even this is like order central over here, but especially these two. You know what I mean?
And the way I'm set up now is I don't really care even if it pushes down lower into the bottom of where the orders are sitting. I'm in the sell all the way down there, right?
Exactly, and you're still going to be competing into these cells and then seeing how price reacts into here, and this is exactly the intent. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, like I've used it quite a bit already, and a lot of people were saying too, oh, the buys were saying this or the sell signal came at this. Like, my opinion, everybody can do whatever they want. My opinion is use it for the structure and use it for the volume and use it the buys and the sells. Like, if you take them blindly, that's fine, but I think you can do way more with the zones and the market structure candles. Like, you can get some pretty gnarly stop losses for some big R&Rs, right? Like, and the reason is because all the hard work's done. Like, you see it, just be aggressive, and it'll tell you, it'll help you. I promise.
Dylan, you preaching the good word, my man. I can't express enough just how grateful I am just for the overall support and the feedback, because like I said, and you continuing to be as just passionate and just as intense as you are in this, it's going to help also make it that much better, because whatever, you know, you say, hey, we could see improvements on here or there, it's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The biggest thing is you gotta do what you gotta kind of be in control of it too. Like, it's like anything. It's like anything. Think about the entire world. Robots and everything are taking our jobs. You still gotta be in control of it. It's no different than an algorithm. You know who made it. You know how he trades. You know why he trades. You know why this, and that's going to be in there. But you still gotta use it for how you need to execute.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You need to control Excelsius. Don't let Excelsius control you.
So yeah, like, I just thought it was funny that I entered that trade and then I checked the 5-minute chart.
And it's just right.
Yeah, and then so then when I got up to the top there, I was like, well, let's check the smaller time frames and see what's going on. So
you love the dynamicness, huh? How just and what's nice is someone like you who just sits on you know, a couple of pairs. Once you preload it, you don't need to go, you know, fluctuating back and forth. It's there for you.
No.
You know what I mean? No. It's there for you just to keep going through, which is really great as well.
Like with the alerts too, because they're sending them to you on every time frame. Like, I just think it's very beneficial to don't get stuck on, like, if you really like the 1 hour, you really like running plays in the 4, don't limit yourself to that, because Excelsius gives you the tools you need to be comfortable in the smaller time frames, right?
Right, 1,000%.
Because a lot of people too, like, why are they long-term traders? Why, you know? Well, we all know the smaller time frames are intimidating. Like, you come into the London New York crossover, you got 30 pip 5-minute candles. Like, don't tell me that's not intimidating when they're coming against you. But Excelsius gives you the opportunity to understand more of the where you're at in the smaller time frames, so you don't get lost. Like, I used to get lost on the smaller structures that were part of the bigger structures, whereas Excelsius it's a lot easier to read those and understand what's going on and then add to your swing position or hedge or whatever you want to do, right?
1,000%. 1,000%. I mean, it genuinely adapts to you and the market environment. You know, the market gets more aggressive, Excelsius is going to pick up on that. If the market slows down, Excelsius is going to pick up on that, right? But at the same time, you also want to pick up on that as well, right? Like the first thing Dylan said was, obviously GU is dropping because of the dollar pairs and X, Y, and Z, without even getting into the basis. And so when he goes and he sees Excelsius is printing sell signals, it's like, well, yeah, that should happen, right? I should not be seeing any buy signals, you know?
Exactly.
You know, and that in and of itself gives you that level of assurity of like, okay, higher time frames in line with how I see. Now I can really maneuver in the smaller time frames, but being mindful once again of what's going on in that higher time frame structure.
Yeah, like I think that's the biggest thing I've found is a lot of us who are longer term traders, you can get comfortable or you can have a little bit more confidence in the smaller structures, you know. And like I told you, 15, 20 pips, you bang that out 10 times in a day, you got a good day.
Right. No.
Meanwhile, you got your swing still running, so who cares? Stops or break even, go to bed.
And you couldn't have even said it better, because you're so right, which is, you know, and this goes back down into, truthfully, it's a big mission statement of Excelsius, which is we are at an unfair advantage. And to Dylan's point, in today's day and age, I mean, how many of you can genuinely trade on the smaller time frames knowing how manipulated it is by the institutions? You know, you get in and then you just see a random wick or something like that happens, right? You know, and then what it does, to Dylan's point, it causes you now to develop, you know, these blinders. And more importantly, you start to say to yourself, nope, I'm not going to do it because of X, Y, or Z reasons. But in reality, you're not doing it because you just don't have the confidence to do it, right?
Well, it's true. Like, look at the institutions. Look how many times they take 10 ticks, make a mill.
I mean, it's amazing what happened in the crypto market a week and a half ago. I mean, you know, like just 25% like that, gone.
Yeah, it is what it is.
In a single day.
Oh, I saw it. I just buy the dip.
There you go. You know what I mean? Discounts, you know, and like, but it just goes back down into, you know, this really is the suit and armor that you need if you want to compete at the highest degree.
And like for example, like I still have a job or whatever. A lot of people still have jobs. You know, we're building capital, we're gaining capital. You got to figure out when you're comfortable and when enough is to go full time. But in regards to full time trading, I tried it. I'll tell you guys straight away. I tried it. I got bored. I got bored because I wasn't.
A lot of free time, right?
A lot of free time, and you can only manage your positions every 4 hours if you got a 4 hour swing going on, right? So, like with this, it gives people who are full time another option, right? Because I'll be the first to tell you, I hated the smaller time frames. I was only 2 years in, I started dabbling a little bit. This gives you the confidence and the help you need to compete down there. Because all it is on the 4 hour is a wick. No reason you can't trade it though.
Right. It's about knowing how to trade it, which is the most important.
And I'm not saying the example I gave you is going to work out every time either, but it gives you enough confluences to think, you know, okay, let's throw $100 on it. Let's see what we can do.
And more importantly, that now gives you a game plan. It gives you one weapon of the many weapons that will be in your arsenal, right? Like Dylan said, that's just one play that I just gave you of many that I could create, right? All based on what's being provided to me.
Like, for example, if any of you are interested, I've been back testing this with gold. Okay. Gold's got some gnarly wicks at New York Open. You can trade the whole thing. You trade the whole thing.
Yeah, gold's wild.
You know? Like, yeah, it consolidates for a long time, but it's consolidating in a range that you can totally trade on the smaller time frames and make good money at.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the levels respect so well. I mean, look at this, like to the T. And you just look at how well that holds.
Yeah, and then look where you're at. Rejection zone, break below that area right there.
And this is yep, and it's like, okay, you wick, right? And then maybe if you can try to find something in here, right? There happened to not be anything, or maybe you get some 1 minute structure in here and you run it down if you're going to be super, super short term about it. But right, you can make.
But even then, Albert, measure how many pips that is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, you're right. And that in and of itself, a 6, 7 point movement for gold, especially in a session push, it's great. You know what I mean? So once again, and let's just take that example right there, which is going to be right around here. I'm sure there's some type of high or low that's going to be in there. There is, once we start to break down, you can start
Yeah,
to
look at
go
that. That's a perfect little trade while you sip a coffee.
right in the morning. Good morning. Into where? The first zone.
Yeah. And that's and then yeah, let's like that one obviously didn't push into the zone as deep as somebody like myself would like, but again, it's the fact that it's there. You
But
decide.
it's also, and this is what I bring up though, also be mindful, while we might be at the zone on the one, it doesn't mean that we're
Yeah,
necessarily on the zone on the higher time frames, right? And like you go into it, maybe when we were pushing wherever it was in here, we're nowhere near entering something where it's like you see something like this, right?
but and that goes back to my GU example though. You got to plan for every time frame because
Right.
you got to sift through them all. You got to use every time frame.
Exactly. You can't, and that's why too. When Theo was asking earlier about the cell signal, I'd be like, you can take it verbatim, but at the same time, you want to be mindful of what is going on in the higher time frame. Like, don't tell me that you're going to take the cell and then put your stop above just the last candle. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's just
So
not going to work out for you.
that's what I found too is the buy and the sell signals on like the 4 hour and the daily. Way I prefer them a lot more than on the smaller time frames. But
Right.
for somebody like myself, because we did it the old way, the hard way, the grinding way for so long, now
And
it
now
just
it
helps
allows
you.
for you, it opens the door.
Yeah, like I don't even chart up anymore. Don't need to.
It genuinely does now. For someone like you who's just been so, truthfully, like one road, discipline like no tomorrow, it kind of now allows for you to take all the tools that you've acquired and just go to work on it. I can't stress enough one of the biggest things that all of you and the ones listening to this recording tomorrow and just all the legends out there, you need to take away the confidence that is radiating out of Dylan's voice. And not just the confidence of, oh my God, I'm up bajillion percent. It's, oh my goodness, look at what I'm going to be able to do with my already. It's not like Dylan bought Excelsius yesterday and he acquired all this information. He already knew how to compete before Excelsius. Excelsius is just allowing for him to now take his level of competition even that much higher.
100%. But you
Yeah.
have to. A lot of people don't understand. You have to. You have to.
Because otherwise, you're limiting yourself.
Like I said, I tried going full time. The swing trading was too boring for me. That's a personal thing. Like other people might love the free time. I live in Alberta, Canada, where it's cold 8 months of the year. Like I'm not going to the beach while I'm managing my position, right? So you know, so
All right, all right.
I'm just sitting at home. Where's this? Like, guys got to get creative with it. Like I know Albert, you and I and Satchel had done the scalping thing there a while back,
You
and like
remember
that
the
was
gold play that one time? That was the craziest day I'll never get over that day.
remember. Yeah, market
The
closed
one
for 5
minute,
minutes.
I was something like that crazy. But yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah, but now we can take those with more confluences than we had before. Just like, you know what? I hope this 1 minute lower high holds. I
and
hope.
and it's and to Dylan's point as well, it's like you see this, and a lot of times traders are like, oh my goodness, right? They're like, oh, this flag's developing. We should be expecting this whole thing to go like this, and it's like, well, you can also use now the rejection zones in context of this past structure, and not just expecting that you're going to get this upburst of a movement, and that's really what everything is for. That's the dynamicness aspect of it, right? You know,
Yeah.
you
Well, the
want
biggest thing I've learned too in the last couple of years trading, just in general, is a lot of those big candles, especially around news, they're just going to be wicks. Guys are like, oh, it's a sell, it's a sell. No, it's not. It's the institutions telling the retail guys, put all your money there, and then I'm going to blow your account because you risk 25%.
No, 1,000%. A
That's what it
thousand
is.
percent. And you can
Yeah,
even
like
see here, right? You get this short-term fake out, and then Dylan saying to himself, you know what? I think it's bullshit. I'm not interested in the short-term fake out. I think we're still going to continue this because maybe in Dylan's eyes, until we break down, 1766, 1770, maybe he's going to try to build some short-term plays. He starts dropping down now. Maybe even to, if you want to be really, really aggressive, and you can start, trying to mix and match accordingly. You start pushing into the zone here. Who's to say that, you know what? And once again, being creative, as Dylan said, you see a little bit of this, you put your stops below the zone, you're trying to target back above, right? and you just
And the thing is too, is a lot of people like they'll get halfway to their target and something will happen or a big wick will happen. Just be aggressive on your stops in these smaller time frame plays.
And at the same time too, be mindful. Click add alert. Well, it's in replay. Click the all alert function. Excelsius is going to tell you when.
Well, like I was telling you too, with managing positions, you see a blue candle in there? No. Why would you close?
Right. Exact. Oh, great point. Keeps you tough.
Well, you know what I mean? A lot of people close too early. Why would you close?
Right. That's a great point. Excelsius keeping you in line because Excelsius is not going to change structure unless it successfully breaks down. Like the, I guess.
Yeah, so that's my comment, my voice message the other day about managing positions. You can't screw it up. You can't fuck it up. If you did, you either risk too much and you're getting greedy, so you were fearful of what could happen, or you're just, a little consolidation scared you. Like I told you, you don't close or update positions on consolidations. You ride it out.
Right.
All that is it's either gathering orders to, that's the trade of the century for you, or it's gathering orders and it's like, I'm going break even and I'm going to flip my bias. Big whoop.
And these are even really good examples too, because take a look at something like this. Like let's say you get this false move here. You get this nice higher low break. Once this corrects, you get in, stops are above, and it's like.
Right.
The possibilities, bro, are endless.
Oh, I know. Like I said, I've probably played with it a little bit more than a lot of people have. That's why I decided to talk about it. But
yeah,
you gotta be creative. You still gotta use the knowledge you have. Like anything from that full volume trading course. Like I would say, if you don't have the time to do that, you don't have the time to use Excelsius to what you can do with it.
Right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think in the end of the day, this is really, really, supposed to come across as this is going to be the upgrade that, you would, only be able to get if you went to an institution or anywhere else because they just have those resources. This does give you, a second pair of eyes and ears. But at the same time, I think it does even something bigger than that, which is it forces you to be so mindful, which by being so mindful and your mind constantly being stimulated, you're growing without even realizing it,
100%. 100%.
Absolutely amazing, Don.
And there's lots of examples too of the same thing I gave with GU. Like I've run across those countless times back testing, and I've only been back testing for the last month of price action on all my pairs.
And do you feel like now with Excelsius, with time you see yourself now becoming a much more active trader? Not saying you weren't active before, but even increasing in that.
I think it just gives you, and you're the same too. You're like how important is this level of structure? You remember those days? Like how important is it? Is this the one, or is it the one above it? Right? Or is it the one below it? Now, especially with these rejection zones, if you're deep into like the third, the top of that rejection zone, that point of structure has a little bit more significance. And Excelsius is showing you that. It's telling you that. So now you have a little bit more confidence on the level. You have the same idea you had before, but you've got an added confluence, to make the decision, which is your execution, right?
No, 1,000%. And I think, the biggest thing is in the event that you are unsure, the data, the information is right here for you at your disposal.
Like go back to my GU example. I entered on the 1 and the 5 minute. Go check it out. And it's like, all my candles are still showing bearish pressure. Why would I close?
Mm-hmm. No, 1,000%. You go into the 1, you go into the 5. This is very much going to be bearish, and you very much know in the bigger picture until we start breaking down this structure.
Yep.
I'm not interested. And now it starts to, really start to paint a picture of, all right, if I can really hold, maybe I can start expecting some movements into these lows, which also the zones will start coming into, and I can start to adjust my stops. And then Dylan's going to be saying to himself, what? Let me see if I can compete for some buys or keep looking for the sells as we continue to start breaking down some further structure here.
100%. And like a lot of people too, like learn how to hedge is a big piece of advice I can give people, because you're risk free so much more. But that comes with dabbling in the smaller time frames. you know, because I used to get stuck on my bias, and I'm like, okay, I'm only buying here. Well, as soon as it goes against me, I'm still looking for more buys. There's
Right.
no reason, you know, you see some candles that are like they're heavy hitters and they're taking you out at break even. There's no reason why you can't wait for that. It's going to be a small little pullback probably, or a wick, and continue on with the overall momentum, even though it was against your idea. The biggest thing I found too is trade with, like, don't have any bias. Have a bias for that trade a longer time frame. But if something happens, don't get stuck just only looking for buys, because that's what overall direction is. The overall direction could take 2 weeks to play out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Don't limit yourself.
No, 1,000%. And really, what I think, you know, as you were saying, don't limit yourself. You know, just know that you have the confidence to do things that maybe you've never done before, and that is really also what Excelsius is for, is to give you that push to venture out and decide that maybe you're a little bit more uncomfortable and start getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
You know, well, that's the biggest thing for me is just the confidence in smaller time frames.
And more importantly, you taking your level of competition from a 10 to breaking the scale now.
Because like even on my GU trade right now, there's a lower high and a higher high in the 1 minute. You know, if Excelsius starts breaking that, sends me my alert, I'm like, okay, like right now, for example, my 2 hedges around $300 of profit, I'll just take the profit and carry on with the buy. I don't care. It's easy.
There you go. And then more importantly, you can go ahead and plan accordingly for your next set of plays. You're moving with flow. You're in a perfect state of market's flow. Let's go, Dylan. Completely in sync.
Yeah, the biggest thing is put in the time to figure it out.
Amazing. Listen, I can't thank you enough for just, you know, taking the time out to really give your overall take on it. You were genuinely one of the first legends to pick it up. Funny enough, Dylan was able to get access somehow to the site before we launched, and you know, got all set up and everything like that. And it was just, you know, really beyond appreciative of just everything, and more importantly, for, you know, what's to come with all that you discover. And yeah, legend, just I can't thank you enough. It beyond puts smiles on my face, because it's just giving me you know, it's so many ideas are flowing right now, you know, because, you know, I very much know how I would utilize it, let's say from dailies all the way down to the minutes, and let's say how I would view it. But Dylan coming on here for spending 30-40 minutes of his time, boom, gave a completely new way as well of how you can utilize it live, exactly what he's doing right now, right? And that in and of itself is the beauty. There are no limitations. And to what Dylan was saying, don't limit yourself either. Don't be afraid of the smaller time frames. Don't be afraid to do things that you have never done before. It's the whole basis of Excelsius. To take you out of your comfort zone, and to more importantly, make you a better trader, and to give you that unfair advantage that we all seek. Because I'm sick and tired of getting beat up by the institutions unnecessarily. Now with Excelsius, not happening. Maybe a little bit.
Even on like your like some of your heavier movers like gold and silver and, you know, oil, just the way the pip count is. I went back and back tested like when you had big US news and you had non-farm payrolls and stuff where you get these crazy wicks. And Excelsius will still handle it. You just got to know what's going on.
More important, for sure. You know, Excelsius was built and designed to just adapt to every dynamic of the market. Like, you can even take a look at, for example, go to let's say BTC, right, and you go look at what recently happened. You know, one would consider this as, you know, a crash in something like this, but in something along this lines, right, for me, in the end of the day, I'm okay with, you know, how Excelsius is handling, because you don't see it bending or trying to change direction or anything along those lines. Still very much bullish in this way. And once again, this will come down to the settings that you hit. If you happen to have a little bit more of a, you know, snappier type of TP, you stop didn't happen and everything actually happened to close. You know what I mean? So,
and then even too, like with, because I know a big question too is like how the profit percentage works, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, like, I'm not gonna say don't worry about it, but like I've fooled around with it, played around. I had it at 25 at one point too, running weeklies, and like it's not, you know, I think a lot of people are really looking for the buys and the sells, and that's totally fine. Like I'm not if that's how you want to trade and that's what you want, then it'll do that for you. But I think the bigger thing you have to understand is it's no different than if you were scalping or trading more intraday or per session, like you like to trade for the first couple hours in London or New York. You know, those signals are still going to reflect the same kind of trading plan you'd go in with if you didn't have Excelsius. Nobody here is going to tell me that they're going for a 100 pip move and they're trading an intraday or a scalp, right? It's so for people who are wondering about that, it's no different. You're not gonna. It's gonna spit out a sell or a buy, and 10 pips later, it'll give you your TP signal. And everybody, a lot of people might think, well, why is this or why is that? Well, you have to understand it's the algorithm it was a perfect scalp. It was a perfect execution. That's all you're running for.
Right.
So
and that's couldn't have said it better. That is exactly why you need to understand what your goals are associated to it. Like you cannot, go down and get, a 5-minute higher low that broke and you're like, where's my 50 pips? Well, it's like, well, that's an outrageous expectation, right? But it's like, hey, we just broke a daily higher low. We got a daily sell signal and we just broke a 4-hour higher low, okay. So it's a little bit of a different situation there, and we're at the top part of the rejection zone and, all these orders and you know what I mean? Then your expectancy to be different once again.
Like, for example, I put 2 charts side by side and it was Euro USD because I trade that, and I also trade Pound USD, obviously. And even the buy and the sell signals too at 0.01, at 1, at 2.5, at 5 is what I had them at. Even just on the pound, because the pound pairs move so much, your buy and sell signals are they're double on GU, right? So if that helps anybody too, trying to decide where you should set it at. I was on the 1-hour time frame and it was double compared to EU. But if you look at your average pip count per week, it makes sense, right? Like GU is almost 2.5 times. So with stuff like that, like everybody, you still need to do a little bit of research and figure out what pairs and why and what you want Excelsius to do. Like that's because it'll do whatever you want, but you need to understand the data it's giving you.
And more importantly, where you are in the market with what it's giving you.
Like, for example, that GU example I just gave off the top of my head there, because I'm in it. If you look at the 4-hour, you'd never take a sell.
Right, because you're pushing right into your. I mean, you could. It's just aggressive. It's just very aggressive.
It is.
And if let's say you took it verbatim, this is not something that you should be sleeping on because who's to say you get something like this and it wicks through and then you start getting back on, right?
But before Excelsius, you wouldn't take that.
No, because we're at the basis of the low. And still, let's say if I wanted to go and take it, I would actually be setting a low on the lows to break, if anything. Or
100%. Break the lows, retest, and take it down.
Precisely. Or I would try to find some type of structure in here and go, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, in this case, I was going to say try this, but you're basically at the lows. Just wait for the whole base to break and then just...
So too, like even with that example, like just because I gave you an example and it's playing out, that's not... I'm not taking that entry on the 1 and the 5.
Even if you get a sell set up right here, it's like, all right, well, you can put your stops above and run, run the trade down if you want. Completely up to you.
But still be mindful of where you're pushing into and what's happened with GU as a pair overall for the last month.
This is the biggest thing, and you're so right. Like your target might be here, but who's to say price stops right here, and maybe it was a difference of 20 pips, but price still pushed 40, 50 pips. Like you cannot, be upset so much as you need to be more mindful of what you should have done to manage this properly. So if you did get taken out, you got taken out with your stops at a mitigated risk and not you just still holding your position after the sell happened. Like this is a good example. You get this sell signal, immediately goes through, and if this starts to happen in this way, you have to be mindful once again of what you're trying to do in the context of the area in which you're doing it.
Well, yeah, because if you look right where it probably told you TP was, you have structure.
1,000%. You look to the left.
So it makes sense. It makes sense. Why wouldn't it push back higher? So what was the sell? It was a relief for that 4-leg move to the upside. Now, is that 4-leg move long term? No, it's still short term until you break down more structure. But you can still take it. You just have to be mindful where you're at again.
And this is the biggest thing. And what Dylan's getting at, and truthfully, is that you don't need to feel intimidated that, I don't have the analysis done, because Excelsius is very much telling you those points.
100%. 100%. Because yeah, it's you still gotta have, you gotta look at the higher time frames, no different than our old analysis, and really figure out where it's going or where it could go and why. Don't just take it blindly. But once you figure all that out, like from an execution standpoint, your life is easy.
Right. And more importantly, it now allows for you to even move at an accelerated rate, because now it's breaking down, let's say these barriers that you had because you were intimidated, let's say, by the lower time frames, or maybe, you know what, you didn't have the ability to scan so many pairs because, you know, it's just genuinely that difficult to go ahead and do so. And so it's doing, you know, so many things at once, you know. It's amazing. More importantly, it's not just that it's amazing. What I'm just beyond, no words about is just the immediate feedback, right? Like, I'm
One
Dylan.
thing too.
I'm like, Dylan, how is it? You're like, well, spent 30 hours on it so far, so you tell me how it is. Like, okay, then, like, that's what we want to hear,
And another thing too, just in back testing, and I'd encourage everybody else who's looking to back test this to do the same. Does not matter the time frame. Like I back tested on the 5, 15, 30, the 1 hour, and the 4 hour. If Excelsius spits you out near the rejection zone, a higher high, and right below it, a lower high, it's 83.5% accurate that you're going to get a move down. And the same goes for if you go down to a rejection zone at the bottom and it spits you out a lower low, and then right above it gives you a higher low, it's the same percentage that you get your move up.
Well, that's wild.
Which I thought was interesting. And that was off 130 trades. So, wow. Like I said, doesn't matter the time frame.
And that's just using the rejection zones.
That's using the rejection zones and just the structure. Don't even have the candles change. If it spits you out a higher high, so the top of the rejection zone, a higher high, a lower high, slightly below it, 83% of the time, it's going back down.
Are we piercing the rejection zone?
What's that?
Are we piercing it?
You'll just be piercing it. Yeah. Like you got on the
let's say like these. So something like these. But by the way, you gotta also appreciate the level of competition. But anyways, something like this. Like if you want to be counter, like you're getting something in here, and then you're saying for the sell.
Like you'll see. So right there, it says the higher high, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, if it spits out a higher or a lower high right beside it.
Then you're gonna. Because it's indicating potential type of development. I got you.
Yeah. So those are, and just about every single time, like it was like 13 or 17% of the time.
Like this. You get the higher high. It prints this lower high, and then
down.
And then you get the strong buy and it goes.
Yeah. And then so just if you guys are looking for like a little tip that I found, go check it out. And same with on the vice versa, it's lower low and a higher low.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it creates. Oh yeah.
So you get the lower low. It's potentially lower high if we break the lows, but then
it gives you this higher low. It's like that's entered right there.
Mm-hmm. 1,000%.
And every single time I did that too, I put my stop loss 10 or 15 pips below that lower low that it printed prior, and look what happens. I just showed you again. There it is.
No, okay. and it's being mindful once again. You see sell signals like this, and you're like, oh, that's not really that much of a movement. But when you actually measure it, price is pushing nearly 39, 40 pips, right? It's up to you whether you're managing these or not.
Well, 100%. I'm managing a 9 pip trade right now. I don't care.
That's and I think it's important. Like you will get these signals too, where there's they're just straight no drawdown, but it's more around using the resources and the tools Excelsius is providing you to ultimately give you the best outcome.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, the lower low with the higher low.
This is cool, man. The lower high. This is really cool. Look at that, a higher high and then a lower high, and then it happens. That's very cool.
I told you.
Damn, bro, this is fire. This is really cool. Any time frame?
Any time frame. I did the 5 minute, 15, 30, 1 hour, 4 hour. Like On GU on the 5 minute, it's right there too.
Look at
When I took
this.
myself.
Marvin's like cheat sheets. Give me the cheat codes, bro.
Well, Albert, it's like a cheat code for the third point on a small structure.
Oh my goodness. This is wild. This is wild. That's why though. Did you guys also see the public? There's now a private chat for Discord members.
If you guys want my 30 hours back test, just message me. I don't have
time. At Dylan.
yeah, but yeah, no. So when you guys are back testing, just be mindful of that because I've noticed it's incredibly successful.
Yeah, I mean, and
that's another one too, Albert. That has nothing to do with the buys and the sells. That's just straight up rejection zones and market structure.
It goes back down into what I said, which is this is so much more than just buy and sell signals. Like, and that is what needs to be gotten across, right? Like, this, in the end of the day, can be verbatim that if you want, or can be completely, a full 180 of that. And, this, ultimately, you legends know that when you look at something like this is straight away how we all move, in the basis that we all move with market structure. We all move as, hard trending players in the bigger picture. And this just goes right in line, right, with how we've all been, developed, and more importantly, how we learn through the game. And so I think what is so inspiring, and I'm so excited to even see it in myself and everyone else around, is just seeing the immediate effect that it's having on you in context to what it does is it opens, and take Dylan's case, for example. It opens his eyes, one. Then two, it automatically now starts to think about Inception, the movie. It plants an idea. And now these ideas start festering and they start growing. And before you know it, he's now competing at a rate that he wasn't competing before, because not that it wasn't there, the confidence is just different now.
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, I've been on Zoom calls with you before, trading live, and we're like, right. Is this the level, or is this the level?
Right, because once again, in the end of the day, you could say I'm looking for a lower high to break, but in more importantly, which lower high is really going to be that lower high that allows for that free-flowing volume, and more importantly, let's say that new structure to start developing.
And and like, for example, too, let's say you have like 15, 30, and a 1 hour high or low. It's all the same, right? Mm-hmm. And with Excelsius, though, you monitor all 3 time frames. It'll give you the answer on what kind of trade you're looking for. On the 1 hour, maybe it's 50, 60 pip trade. On the 15, maybe it's 25 or 30. It'll tell you. It'll break a point of structure, and it'll tell you, okay, this trade's done. The 15-minute level was the one that we were rolling with, right? Mm-hmm. Because it won't validate anything else in the 1 hour.
And I have nothing else to say. You are just taking it out of my mouth, and no, you're 100% on it all. I mean, it is.
Well, I'm just trying to think of examples.
No, you're using it exactly as the intended use case was meant to be. Like. In the end of the day, like, UJ's another really good example in context too. Like, for example, the super hard trending environment right now, even if you turned on the signals, you'll just see a tremendous amount of buys being populated, and it should. But, oh, by the way, I can't stop looking at that, bro. That's such a good point. Look at this. High, here's a lower high, and then happened. Wild into the zone here. So basically, Dylan is saying here, we got the high, got the low. If this prints a lower high, money. But you could also break it down the smaller time frame, really start going down and playing it accordingly.
Well, I was just based that you can literally just trade off your alerts. Use that little, like, 83%. I don't know, good enough for me. Take the 1-to-1s and go home.
The respect is incredible.
It is. And that's another thing too, is like on a pair like this too, a lot of people, like, you got to understand, UJ, it's still a yen pair, but it's not going to move like GJ, right? So, that consolidation right there. Don't take what I said earlier and start trying to run it. I wouldn't recommend it. Why? Because you're not going to get the volatility, you're not going to get the movement you need to make money. So, like, a lot of it too still comes down to the trader being mindful of things, right?
And that goes back down to, you want to have this as additional game plans to the already game plan that you had initially. right? You hear the way Dylan's speaking. He's got his set pairs, he's got his set approaches, his set ways. This just unlocks a tremendous amount of more doors for him.
Oh yeah,
Let's
it's
go, baby. Come on. Business.
yeah, like I don't know, it's just crazy how you can move in the small time frames while you're still holding. Even if you're not a swing trader like I am, even if you're just 1 hour plays, go to the 5 minute, go to the 1 minute even, and go check the smaller time frames with Excelsius. It's easy.
You can just see how well it respects, especially when it's pushing into these areas, right? And
Hey
then, as
Albert,
Dylan's saying, you see an area here. The moment price breaks now this previous lower high, Dylan's like, all right, I'm in. Stops are gonna be below. We'll target kind of the upper part, minimum 1-to-1 if we want, whatever. And then Dylan's like, all right, I can hedge this, and then I'll look for some structure to break,
and then I got the lower high after the higher
You
high.
got the lower high after the higher high in the print, and then next thing you know, it's like boom with the cheat codes. Let's go.
So.
Whoo! I'm hyped.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The legends in the chat. Every single person is about to sign up because of you.
Oh yeah.
Let's go. Amazing.
Hey, I had to grind away to figure this out.
Well, thank you so much, and please continue to keep grinding away, because by you figuring this out, it's not only going to make your trading that much better, but it's also going to allow for all of us to really benefit, and vice versa. As we continue to find findings, as we continue to learn more about Excelsius, we want to continue to build with this. I can't stress enough. You hear just all the fire and the passion, and this is V1. This is V1 with no user input, with no, first adjustments. This is the, initial phase of it. And if you can think of what the iPhone 1 was and what the iPhone 13 is, imagine what Excelsius 1 and the further iterations of Excelsius will be.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I highly recommend everybody go get it.
Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate you.
I really do. And then play around with it too. Like, just you can be as creative as you want. Just figure out what it's doing. Like, just like that higher high, lower high, and whatever. That was just from back testing a couple hundred trades. Like, I barely even scratched the surface.
Just scratch the surface. That's what I want to hear. Just scratch the surface.
Well, Albert, think about it. Just over 8%, 30 hours.
I think we could bump that up.
And that's while I'm learning. So.
And just iterating straight away and competing.
Like I said, I only trade like 8 pairs.
I know, no demo for you. Just straight into it.
Demo. If you don't experience the emotions of managing a trade and the emotions of being able to lose money, I don't know how you, because to me, you can learn the skill set all you want. Managing your emotions is a lot harder.
No, I agree.
First time I made 100K, I dropped 40 the next day and was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm. It really hits you. It makes you reflect. Big time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm drinking Starbucks lattes, and here I am back to McDonald's for a 99-cent coffee.
It's damn right, bro. To humble you. Listen, the markets will humble you real fast. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But I think all in all, this is going to be something really special for all of us. I've been in this game so long, and I can't tell you just how exciting it is that now we are at a time where we can genuinely sync ourselves with technology. We can be one with technology. We don't have to just use it, based on what everyone else sets it for. We can now completely set based on our preferences and our desires. And so, amazing, Dylan, really. I can't thank you enough for all your feedback, and just more importantly, just for you being the legend that you are. And I'm so excited for everybody to get a hold of this, and more importantly, to really see the damage that you legends are going to do. Like it's being said in the chat, and as we're seeing demonstrated here tonight, this genuinely does give you the unfair advantage. It genuinely does. But to Dylan's point, you have to make sure that you work with it. You want to be in the driver's seat at all times with Excelsius. That is the number one way to maximize Excelsius with your trading. Let's go. Amazing. We're going to be doing a lot more of these types of calls, and more importantly, just a lot more of these general webinars with the premium channels. There's a premium chat, which of course is going to be for members only, so we can really start to discuss about all these findings and just share and continue to grow together. But at the same time, this week, and what will be really exciting is the Discord channels will now be getting set up on that side. So you will now have everything also being fired away through Discord. And that addition is going to be a massive aid. But in and of itself, Excelsius does everything and anything you need. Right now, you can set all the alerts, all the automations, and you get everything at your fingertips. Let's go.
Yeah, GU broke a higher low too, so just heads up.
Yeah, so you decided, oh, I don't need to take it off. So you were just like, all right, gonna stay in the position. You're still in the sell, right?
I'm in the buy and the sell.
Oh, that's right, you're in both. Oh, I even set this before. Oh, this was off, I think, the 1 hour. It sent like a 1 hour sell signal. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I haven't even had my signals on just because I've been, I don't know. I think too, a lot of people that aren't, maybe haven't been with you as long. Like, I just think, I think you should focus on the structure. That's more important.
And look, that is precisely why you have the ability to toggle it on and off. You are not forced to do anything. You do exactly as you seek and desire. And so you're, and that is what I absolutely love to hear. You're like, listen, I just don't really use the signals. I like using this other stuff. Rock and roll. That is the whole basis of the design, right? So,
yeah, no, if anybody too, like I've spent quite a bit of time on this already since it come out too. If you have any questions or want to know what I found, just message me or whatever. I'll help you out because I know Albert's been busy and whatever, but that's what I found so far, guys.
Let's try to get that premium chat really growing because that will ultimately just it's meant for all the Excelsius members. I'll start.
Albert, I just figured out how to use Telegram. Like fuck, I don't know how to use Discord.
Discord's actually even easier than it's like it's. I thought it was intense too at first, but you'll
look
love it.
at it.
I promise.
I'll look at it.
I promise. It's. Did you see right there? You got the early adopter title, champ. And you got first edition wallpapers. Discord's gonna be huge because you'll see a lot of cool things coming through there.
What do I got?
Did you get in?
Oh well, yeah, I'm in Discord. Member rewards.
Yeah, did you go to the member rewards?
First edition wallpaper. Nice.
You like that?
Yeah.
There you
nice.
Go. Plug and play, baby. Nice. Let's go. But yeah, no, Discord's gonna be sweet. And then more importantly, it's really a place for all of us to communicate and really discuss. And so, for all the legends that are on the live today, that's gonna be a place for you guys to really go discuss, hear game plans, and of course, ask away. But yeah, all in all, tonight was incredible. We not only had just a really good turnout, we got genuine, real feedback. From a legend who has dissected this inside and out in the last 30 hours, and as he said verbatim, only skimmed the surface. And that in and of itself is very chilling. I can't tell you, Dylan. Just when you were like, go to GU, 5 minute, 15 minute, look at the rejection zone, look at what exactly entered, and it was just like beyond pinpoint. Wild.
Oh
yeah. Absolutely wild.
Well, even for new traders too, just the market candles and how they change too. Like if you're a swing trader, like the hardest part for me was holding them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't even like the fact that that's being ignored is crazy because you know how helpful that is. Like that's something that's just like I've been on it now long enough that I'm taking it for granted already. But remember when you started how hard it was to hold a swing position?
It's very difficult.
Now it's just it's automatic. It's like, well, my candles are still pink or my candles are still blue, so I'll just wait till it tells me their structure and go from there.
And it's meant to simplify the process.
Because like that roller coaster for me was like a 6-month learning process, and you solved it in a day. So
Dylan's saying, get signed up, Legends, because it's going to give you the same level of energy that is radiating through Dylan in just the last 2 days in and of itself. And he's just touched the surface. Give Dylan 1 week, 1 month with Excelsius. Give you Legends 1 week, 1 month with Excelsius, and look at the damage that you all will be doing.
like eight. Hey, God,
like
put it in perspective. 8%, right? 2%. I'm 2%. I'm probably another night. I'm a London session away with some volume, probably, of an FTMO being done. Y'all ever think? Anybody ever think of that? Like, take it. If any of you guys are with fibers, they're another big one too. Go take the high risk account. $50 a trade, done deal. You're not gonna lose 5 in a row. No way. $50 a trade. Do that 6 times, 7 times, 2 sessions, maybe a full day. Done. Tell them to pay you. Yeah. Think about it, Albert. That's what it is. That's literally what the numbers are. They don't lie. So,
it is designed to give you that unfair advantage.
Get funded enough and just go buy the prop firm, bankrupt them, tell them get out of here.
Might be getting messages from market regulators soon telling me that we're causing too much disruption in the market. Next thing you know, you see a tweet. Markets have been shut down due to Excelsius.
I'll tell them, see you in court. I'm making enough to drag it out. Yeah.
All in all, go ahead.
So that'd be the day you make such a big change in the market. The SEC or the regulators are mad. Yeah.
You know you're doing something right at that point.
Goldman Sachs is pouting.
We're trying to ring there.
Yeah, like, bitch, please, I'm buying your office too. Get out of here.
The takeover is imminent. And especially with what we got going on now. Pink Sand, Excelsius, the exchange, Blue Palm. It's going to be extremely scary what's about to come.
Yeah, everybody just needs, like, even by January, I'm excited to see what everybody else comes up with.
Right, that's the exciting thing, because now we're going to be moving into a time period where you'll probably be expecting, aggressive conditions for the next week and a half, 2 weeks.
And then nothing.
You'll see a slowdown for about, a week or 2 weeks, and then once again, markets will then pick up. And that slowdown is a phenomenal time for you to go ahead, test, build strategies, build ideas, build game plans for that new year. But at the same time, use these current weeks to see what it's like in those aggressive conditions. Usually this is the last major push of the year in context to markets, environments, just because there's a lot of rate discussions and things like that. But
and Theo just said too in the chat, hours of charting to now having everything preloaded. Like, people don't understand. You know how much more time you have to make game plans and figure out what you want to do, because you're not sitting there looking for a fucking lower high, zooming in because there's 9 wicks in the last 8 candles. Like, fuck, get out of here. You know how many times I don't want to ever have to use that tool again, or I got to zoom in on candles and be like, well, is this the lower high? Ah, fuck it. I'm just going to put a zone here. They're all lower highs. I don't care.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Theo's got a good point. You know how much extra time you have as a trader to just now execute, make decisions?
Right. No, I mean, it does as it's intended to do. It's meant to simplify the process. It's meant to genuinely accelerate your trading in all areas. It's meant to make you the most efficient trader, and more importantly, the best trader that you can be.
Oh, get this. So a buddy I work with, he's not in Forex. He trades stocks, right? So I told him about this. I was like, yo, I got this little thing. Like what tickers are you looking at this morning? He's so whatever. He's looking at like 5 of them, punched them all in on my trading view. I was like, yo, don't buy this, don't buy that, buy that, buy that, buy that. 3 for 3 in the stock world, boys. I don't trade stocks or whatever. I just trade the Forex market. But anyways, yeah, buddy of mine, big Quest trade guy, big stock guy. And he's like, yo, should I buy these? And sure as shit. Can't remember what it's two technology companies just tanked today. And it was like, there was a sell and he doesn't really short, he just buys. So those two were bang on with Excelsius, and then he's up on the other three. And they were, one was a strong buy alert, and two were just market sentiment candles. I was like, buy. He's 3 for 3 on the day. Well, it works, right? Long time for not longer time frames. It's perfect for stocks.
No, 1,000%. I mean, no matter what market that you look at on, whether it's, all the ones that we look at, or, you even go ahead and you take a look at, the majors in the end of the day in context to the stock market. And yeah, it is genuinely perfect for stocks because stocks are hard trending, assets for the most part, right? And so, if anything, this is a phenomenal tool for equities just because of the way that it moves in that context. 1,000%.
Yeah, the only thing you got to be careful with the stocks is if a company's too new, you don't have enough data. Excelsius won't have enough data, right?
It's a good point. No, 1,000%. And so
like if it came out 2 weeks ago, Excelsius, everybody knows what the daily chart's going to be. It's going to be like, oh, this massive impulse, and then back down to where it's actually traded at, and start from there. But Excelsius won't have the data for that. Just a heads up, just in case you guys start looking at stock tickers, you're like, oh, it's not working. It's just because there's not enough data. Like the asset's got to be out for like, I'd say about a month before you have an actual representation of what's going on.
Because Excelsius needs data in order to develop,
Well, exactly. It can't take 4 candles and tell you what to do.
Right. It needs data. It needs.
And even then, Albert, me and you can't look at it and be like, yo, to the moon.
What's going to happen too? Right. Exactly. We don't have enough structure to work with.
Yeah. Exactly. The only reason you're buying it is because Twitter told you to, so you probably should put your money back in your wallet.
The perfect plug and play.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, it does work for stocks too. Forgot to mention that.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you all to experience the advantage. Really, I know I've been saying a lot of slogans, but it genuinely are the catchphrases that you see on the site, and more importantly, how we speak, because it gives you precisely what is trying to be provided. And so, yeah, legends, go to town, get signed up. If you ever have any issues pertaining to the sign up process, definitely reach out to support. We have an incredible support team. They're on the clock all the time, and they're here to take care of you. Before we run off, does anybody have any other questions that maybe came to the top of your head for you, or for or for Dylan? Dylan has just as much experience with this now, and so yeah. If you want any final last minute questions, without a doubt, fire away. If not, like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of these moving forward, and more so, we're going to be having specific community-oriented lives as well, specifically for discussions like this. And so, yeah, definitely as we continue to develop and brainstorm, yeah, we'll continue to see some incredible action. But nonetheless, legends, overall, we're getting near the end of today's webinar. Nearly 3 hours in here today, and I can't tell you, I haven't had this much fun in years. I genuinely started just getting so quiet towards the end just because I can't express in words, what it means to hear just that type of response immediately. And as Dylan said, how many, 30 hours, how much can you genuinely put in that, regard, so you just skimmed the surface, and to just see that type of reaction straight off the bat.
Well, Albert, back testing's a lot quicker when you don't got to chart it all up.
Facts.
Like Theo, you said something about the guys who are here first. They understand. How many hours did you waste on a Sunday just for you to go too small of a time frame and it's all gone?
Straight facts. Theo, go ahead, ask your question.
Thanks, TradingView.
Yeah, my last question was for the I think what it was the percentage gain was like one of the settings. Was that what it was?
This here, the TP percentage?
Yeah, is that like as you adjust it, does the how does it the TP get bigger? Like does the TP get bigger, or like does the stop get tighter?
Take a look at so basically no, the stops are always based on the direction of the market, so it's not like the direction is going to start changing based on your take profits. But this ultimately just dictates in context to suggested TPs of when that most recent buy signal was printed. So from where this buy signal was printed to where the TP is, I'm sure that I'm off, so I'm going to be like here, whatever. But basically, that comes into the 10% line, right, of what the TP is. Now, when you interchange the TPs, right, ultimately that will dictate how many signals are sent, right? So the lower TP, the more signals that will be sent, the higher the TP. Sometimes the less signals will be sent, but that's not also true because if you do maneuver through the time frames, that also dictates as well how many trades may be firing away in addition. So the take profit percentage, you can adjust it in that context, but be mindful once again, you want to be using that in addition to also all the other tools that you have around you because they will give you a way better, when used combined, they give you a way better sense of just overall market environment. You think you're getting a higher high, it's not necessarily indicative that this should just push through. Be mindful of what is telling you. But with the take profit percentage, yeah, that dictates where the take profit's going to be put, and then more importantly, when these are going to be fired away at.
All right, and like just to clarify, and like this is like assuming that 1R would be 1%. Is that like how it goes? I'm assuming.
Where, champ?
Like is like 1R like the stop loss with that? Like is that assuming like the stop loss is like 1% of the trading account?
Where do you see 1R?
Like because the take profit is like 5. Is it 5% of the like the entire trading account? Is that what the
No. It's just it's percentage of the market in and of itself. So like 5% of Apple of where that was spent, or like for example, you look at currently these percentages. It's not of your account as much as of the market in itself.
Okay.
When it comes to risk, you dictate risk in the end of the day in context to that. This is talking about when the signal was printed to, for example, expectancy. And when you change it, ultimately it will dictate, of course, how many are sent, frequency, where they go, things like that.
All right. Okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Beautiful. You ready, champ?
Man, I'm ready. I'm excited. Like, I'm fully funded. I'm ready to hook this up.
Let's go. I'm glad that I was able to, because I know a lot of you, I know you, Marvin, Artie, you guys were asking a lot of questions with regards to, just there's a lot of questions, and I want to make sure that, we can get those answered as quickly as possible. We're here. Excelsius is out. There's no reason to delay in context to getting set up. And so there's also going to be coming out with some a video tomorrow with regards to also game plans and tactics that I want to release for everybody. But yeah, Legend. For the members, there was new videos released just a couple hours ago that really goes into the whole best practice sides of it when it comes down to Excelsius. And so, yeah, it's time to get you hooked up and start competing. Let's go. Any other questions, Cham?
I'm good. I'm
beautiful. Rock and roll. With that, Legends, this is going to conclude the live. The live is recorded, so I'll upload the recording when I get it. And then aside from that, I can't thank you all enough for coming today. Dylan, thank you so much for your input and just more importantly, your feedback. I can't tell you just how massive it is, and it will continue to just be even more massive as the feedback and just overall experience will help mold and shape the future of Excelsius. And so, Legends, we are here. We are about to genuinely take off to a whole nother world, and it's so exciting. Go to town on it, have fun with it, reach out to the community. If you need any help, reach out to me. Dylan said you could reach out to him. He's a busy legend, but still loves to help out. And yeah, Legends, we got an amazing community. We're all here for the same reasons, to make each other better. And so yeah, enjoy Excelsius, have fun with it, and like we were talking about this entire time, let it open up what is already inside of you. as you saw with Dylan, and I very much know, as I know who Dylan is as a trader, those talents have been within him since the day I've known him. Confidence is a scary thing. Confidence is a very scary thing when obtained. And sometimes you just need that push to start creating that confidence. And once that confidence starts being created, it's very scary what can be done with it. Legends, go experience the advantages, go kick some ass. Thank you all for being the best. I'll speak to you legends all in a little bit. Thank you guys.